Hello, this is the February chat, I think. Yeah, February chat with fans. Uh, let's see. Not a lot of announcements. Basically, I'm in the process of kind of retooling everything. So, I mean, my process is kind of changing for the videos a bit. We'll see how it goes. What I can promise is I'll have multiple videos record the footage recorded and my dialogue recorded this month. However, that may or may not translate to videos this month. I don't know, but I think this is gonna lead to hopefully more videos total this year. So even though there's a delay and it looks like nothing's happening, because on Freeman's Mind, I'm getting help with the sound effects and a little bit of the map. So, even once I'm done, was it William Smith is probably going to be working on the sound effects for it, and I want him to take as long as he needs. And then on Game Dungeon, I'm going to be experimenting. I'm going to be kind of cycling through different video editors and seeing how that goes. Again, I won't release anything if I'm not happy with it, satisfied. In fact, I'm even warning editors that, to do a few minutes at a time. I'll look it over, see how it's going, because there's a chance I may have to throw it out if it's not working well. So I won't throw out the episode, but the work I'm doing with that editor, I'll try to give them something for their time. But so we'll see how that goes. So yeah. Somebody in the chat, investment in a more efficient production process. Yeah, hopefully. It might boost morale on my end too, because my least favorite part is going through all the tiny details. I'm also going to be getting help on volume balancing. Hopefully that'll go well. I've unfortunately had to reject a couple offers on volume balancing so far because I'm kind of picky about it. Yeah. I noticed when you use compressors, when people use them, it'll sound weird, or it'll sound like I'm kind of moving back and forth from the microphone, just the way it processes it. And I hate that effect. Or if I get real loud for a line, it makes it quieter. So it's, okay, yeah, I don't want to lose my train of thought. I'm just going to be working on the videos. You may or may not see anything for the next few weeks. Sorry about that, but things are happening. Yeah, so I think that's pretty much all I have for announcements. So going to the questions. Oh yeah, the questions. I have a question for chat. I'll answer more of the chat questions at the end. Hopefully I'll try. Some of these questions will take some time, but hopefully it won't be too long. Oh yeah, for the chat, some moderators were suggesting I put the questions this time in contest mode, which kind of randomized everything so you couldn't see what the votes were on them. Do people want me to do that in the future, or just go back to the old method where you can see what has the most votes or not? I'm not sure it really made much of a difference either way. In fact, I think I can disable that now, but I was afraid to because I was worried that might just delete all the replies. I thought, yeah, maybe better not do that. So, okay, we have one vote for the old method. Oh yeah, somebody's saying maybe put them on a poll. I think your mic is clipping a bit. Well, here, let's see. La 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 la. Okay, if it's clipping, it's not doing it it's not volume clipping, I don't think. So there could be other problems. I don't know. Are people hearing problems from how the mic sounds? I swear there must be some ghost. Everything's been a little weird since I moved to Windows 10 with OBS. I can see the levels, and if the volume was just too high, if I was just blowing it out, then somebody's saying there's some static. It's a really quiet crackle. It's only 5% annoying, huh? Somebody was saying they hear something. Damn it. It does sound fuzzy. Okay, man, what? On the T and the words. I mean, is that the? I mean, could be someone with the mic itself. They're saying keystrokes. I'm not typing anything. I have my arms folded at the moment. Okay, somebody's saying go with it. I apologize. I really do want this to not sound awful when people listen to it, but I don't know what's going on. It's not volume clipping up to 100%, though. I can say that. But I don't know what else it's doing. Let's see. Okay, well, sorry. I really am trying, but I don't know what's happening. And it seems like the problems increased when I moved to Windows 10 with OBS. I don't know, but I also updated OBS at the same time, so maybe it's related. Oh, you know what? There is a buzzing from this light. It's like quiet though. Okay, here, let's try this. I'm going to turn the light off. Okay, now I'm talking. Did that fix anything at all? He's only saying T words, teapot, tittle, treacle, the. Okay, turn the light back on. Okay, so that didn't change anything. So the buzzing's pretty quiet. So. Okay, well, I don't know. Maybe the mic's damaged or the cable or something, but I think it was pretty good mic. All right. Yeah. So I'm gonna start answering questions then. Well, I mean the submitted. Okay. Well, when we put this on YouTube later, you can put some comments whether I should disable the contest mode or leave it up or whatever. Okay. Yeah. First question. So I didn't have a great answer. So they're saying thanks to the Rama video, they discovered Arthur C. Clarke. And have you thought about which aliens you prefer to be abducted by? I don't know if I have a clear one. Well, my first thought, I guess my favorite alien abduction. I don't know if this I prefer. There was a skit by the Whitest Kids You Know. Maybe I can link to it if I can find it on YouTube. Here I'll make notes of that. Where they have MTV News coming back on, and they're saying that all the world's smart people have been abducted, and like nothing has happened like this before. And they're saying like we're the only news station still on the air, and you know, and you get to see them kind of stumble through doing the news broadcast. Like, yeah, all the world's smart people have been abducted. We're not sure what happened or if they're coming back. Or I enjoyed that one. Yeah, aliens abduct. Well, you know, I have to rewatch it. I had sort of mixed feelings about the movie because I thought it started off weak, but then it got a little better. Was it? Geez, I forgot the name of it now. It's the Simon Pegg movie. It's like End of the World or something. Pub at the end of the world. I'm sure the chat's gonna know what the title of the movie I'm talking about is. I was thinking those aliens. They sounded pretty reasonable. They were at World's End. At World's End, thank you. They sounded pretty reasonable when they were talking to him. It's just that everybody was freaking out about it and not giving them a chance to really to explain themselves, or they were too rebellious to be able to accept any. A little crooked there. Too rebellious to be able to accept any sort of alien overlord, and I'd have to watch it again. But I remember thinking it sounded like if you weren't like super rebellious and were like willing to kind of calmly, you know, talk out what the whoa. I guess focus is on automatic. I'll fix that another time. Then what? Yeah, this didn't sound too bad. Let's see. I'm trying to think of like some other ones that. Yeah, I guess, you know, see, those have an advantage too, because a lot of aliens, they're not speaking English, you know, so it's just going to be kind of grunts and or just kind of semi-terrifying, and you're never really going to understand what's happening. Because I was thinking in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, they seem relatively benevolent, but they're, you know, we just have like the barest of communication with them, so that's not going to be as fun. Whereas they were straight up talking to us, and uh, in World's End. So yeah, maybe the World's End aliens. It sound like they. I mean, if you have big problems with them, then yeah, you're in trouble. But seemed okay. Okay, so I'll keep moving on. Oh yeah, how large is your music collection in gigabytes or terabytes? I'll check right now. I have two folders that one's semi-organized, one's not. It's really not as large as you might think, because music is one of those things where I just sort of fell behind on that because I was busy with so many other things. And I kept obsessing over having a system to sort it. So eventually I would have a system where I could pick like a general mood or like a song, and then just have like a randomized playlist kind of based around that mood. Yeah, okay, yeah, so here, I'll check this size while I keep talking. It's gonna take it a second. So I got kind of obsessed on that, and it just sort of killed me searching out more music because I thought it would just keep piling up into a mess, which I didn't want to deal with. Okay, my grand total at the moment is 135 gigabytes for music. So again, it's not as it's spread out. There's more than that though. It's spread out, but it's not nearly as big as you think. I guess the other question is like, oh yeah, okay. So what format would you guys recommend? Because I don't think I can hear the difference between lossless and like a really high quality lossy format. I think I was leaning towards, see, somebody's already jumping in a flack, but I guess like what's sort of the threshold where like only people with superhuman hearing are going to be able to notice the difference? See, somebody's saying MP3, but like with MP3, what I found is like cymbal sounds, like cymbals, like I can usually pick that out from MP3s. But I remember doing experiments with Ogg Vorbis that came out pretty well, and I was kind of moving my collection to that. But again, I just got really sidetracked. Yeah, somebody's saying high quality Ogg. Okay, so it's like what setting? You said it like 5 or 6 for Ogg Vorbis, or? Yeah, or hey, like maybe there's sites where you can kind of test for yourself, like what can you hear? Because some songs you can't really tell the difference, but others you can. That's I remember for the MP3 format, cymbals are a really good one. Like you'll start hearing the compression where you may not hear it in another song. Yeah, so I'm wondering like what's the best ratio between. Because I don't really, if I can't hear the difference, I don't really care if it's lossless. But for the music quest, the soundtrack organization quest, the thing I got it was soundtracks that held me up because the variety is so wide. You see, somebody's saying 320 sounds great to them, but I guess the point is, what's a good song where you personally can hear the difference between that and something lower, But, for the soundtrack organization, I couldn't figure, I would make progress, and then I got sidetracked, and then I just would never get back to it. So at some point, I'm going to go through and just absorb music. Like, I think I made the metaphor in one of the videos, like Shang Tsung absorbing souls. I'm really gonna just drill into it. I've actually started doing that lately with wallpapers. In a little bit of my free time, I went to DeviantArt and just started looking at wallpapers I liked, and then it would recommend others, and then I went down a bit of a rabbit hole with that. And now what I've done is I just made a point of the artists that I like, and I started keeping a spreadsheet. And then what I do is every time I see an artist, a new one, I like something by theirs, I add it to the list, and then I'm slowly going through, and then I look through the artists, and then grab the stuff that I like from them from their gallery, and then I cross it off the list, and I'm kind of going through that slowly. So I imagine it'll be something similar with music, where I'll just start absorbing a whole ton earlier. But I feel like I can't do that until I have like a good system to throw it into, because then it'll just pile up and I'll never listen to it. So that's. But yeah, so for the soundtrack organization stuff, I figured there are two main approaches to it, because again, my end goal is to just pick a mood or just a general theme that I like, and then I've already sorted it ahead of time to somebody's saying about how about ArtStation. I haven't checked ArtStation. I could look into that. But what? Yeah, like just think of like a theme the music likes. Like it wouldn't even have to be genre necessarily. Like music you would want to play like if you were playing like a deep space game or something. Or, I mean, this is like really subjective. Or music for like a racing game you might want to, or exercise for some people, or just, you know, you want to like chill out and concentrate on something, or something that's a little more lively than that, you know, or ones that are a little more dark or light. There was so much variance that it was just, I was making progress, but it was just going to take me forever to come up with it. I might still, if you want to see the progress I made so far, you can email me, rossdaviska@gmail.com, and I can send you basically the info I made on it so far. I've sent it to a few people over the years. I was thinking I kind of feel like a quest giver in a game, like an NPC quest giver, where I just keep giving this to adventurers and I never hear from them again. So I'm assuming they're all getting killed. So that was the. So the thing is, even though it's super subjective, I may not agree entirely with your system, but if you had a system that worked for you, I might find that like 80% of this is like, yeah, this is a good way of organizing it. And I could kind of copy from some of it and then customize the rest for myself. So I always got hung up on that. But the other method, which might eliminate the need for that, is if AI gets good enough, if it could scan your whole collection, it could look at just a million patterns that these songs have and then take its best guess on which song sounds similar. Now, if the AI was good enough, it could probably do a fantastic job on that. The problem is, I don't know of any of this that lets you use it on your own personal collection. So there's all sorts of online music sites that it's already been sorted by like record label stuff, that they'll be able to sort it. They'll be able to sort it, but then if you have a bunch of music that's not in their collection, well, then that's no good to you. So it's like, because I'm sure there's lots of great AIs for this now, but whether the public has access to it, that's the question. I was almost tempted to bring up this point in the Dream Software video. That, you know, part of the reason I made it is just because we have the technology, that's no guarantee that the average person is going to have access to it. You know, it might only be for companies that have a lot of money to throw at the problem or for their own use. So I was trying to steer in that direction. Yeah, well, I mean, you can send me music in FLAC. You know, I don't have a problem with FLAC. The problem is, the thing is, I might not keep it that way. I might convert it to Ogg Vorbis later, because it's just, that's what I'm wondering. I'm wondering, like, what's a good site to see where you can tell the difference? And I might try and do some blind test on myself. And if I can't tell the difference, then, okay, well, I'm going in circles again. But yeah, so I'm fingers crossed. I'm hoping somebody develops an AI for scanning music that's available to the public that you can. I haven't kept up in the past year or two, so it could exist right now. Okay, somebody's saying the Spotify recommendation sucks. So yeah, what? Okay, somebody's upset by something. Let's see. It bothers me a lot. You support racist kind of humor, defend people making racist statements. It's. I think I mentioned. I think this came up in like one of the streaming things. I mean. I don't. I can't think of where I supported somebody making racist statements. Racist humor, it's fair because I think this came up. I like comedy in general. So when I think of like racist humor, I'm thinking of stuff like Dave Chappelle or like the chat mentioned before in was it Blazing Saddles? That was one of the first examples. Or I mean, you can actually I think there's probably plenty in the movie Friday. I like humor in general. I think the real test is it meant to sincerely just be funny, or is it meant in kind of a spiteful or hateful way? So humor isn't always safe. There's there's stuff that's gonna one of my favorite quotes. Well, it's not a quote. I'm paraphrasing it. I remember Rob Zombie when he was filming House of a Thousand Corpses. He was saying that he had to kind of when he was directing that, he was saying he would talk to different people differently because he would say things that to one person, that they would just break out laughing, and to another person, they probably break down crying if he said the exact same thing. So he had to kind of tune himself into that respect. So I can't think of anything I've said to support racists that have support. To be clear, I do not support racists. That's pretty. I'll stand by that. But I mean, race-related humor that can certainly be interpreted as race. It's context, and the internet isn't always great. It isn't always great with context. But yeah, a lot of Dave Chappelle skits could be considered extremely racist. There's all sorts of things. Just if you're really sensitive about that sort of thing, I mean, sorry, but I like comedy in general, and it's up to the own person to determine where your taste lies. I mean, there's some stuff that's like too much for me, but that like it isn't in my taste. But then I just kind of avoid it. But okay, so let's see. Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay, we have a big question coming up. This one is going to take some time. What's your opinion on the GameStop stock shenanigans? I made a couple notes on this one. But before I get into this part, I have an announcement, and this announcement's only for millionaires. So if you're not a millionaire, you can disregard this part. I was thinking when I heard about this, I was thinking, you know what? I bet there is some overlap between people who are on Wall Street bets buying GameStop stock and who may watch my videos. It's like a Venn diagram. I bet there's like a little bit of overlap. So if you're someone who's become a millionaire, or I would say in the past week or two, or even before then, I have a donations page on accursefarms.com. It's up at the top. It says donations. Feel free to, throw me some crumbs if you're a millionaire, because, normally I'm pretty gun shy about mentioning the donations. I don't, because I figure, who the hell am I to ask people for it? But millionaires, I have no problem hustling millionaires. And from what I can tell, Wall Street Bets doesn't have a problem with that either. So I just wanted to put that announcement out there. I feel like this is one of those, I'd rather regret something I have done than haven't moments. So, what? So yeah, I wanted to throw that out there. Everyone else, don't worry about it. If you never donate a dime, that's fine. I laid this all out in the Begathon video. I see this all as just me pressing my luck, but it feels like the luck currents are a little higher at the moment. So I figured I'd just kind of dip my toe into that. Okay, so here I'll give my full thoughts on this, and I'm gonna have some questions for the chat actually on this too. My thoughts on this sort of evolved because I heard about this from a friend like 2 days before it went big on news cycles. And my very first thoughts were like, oh man, does this have to be GameStop? You know, like this is the GameStop is a company I was sort of like looking forward to it dying because I've heard like how many bad stories have you heard about GameStop regarding customers or their employees? Probably like hundreds, you know? So I was thinking this is a company that like I didn't think was going to be missed. But what? And my other thought was that, well, even if they're propping this up, you know, it's, you know, some people are going to probably make out big, but others probably aren't because, you know, it is the comparison to Blockbuster is an apt one, you know, where they haven't adapted well to the digital. They haven't adapted well at all because I was thinking GameStop sort of lost me a long time ago because they basically dropped PC gaming almost completely. The last time I was in a GameStop, which I think was over 10 years ago, the only PC games they had were Blizzard ones. So there was like World of Warcraft stuff, there was StarCraft 2. I can't remember if that was before or after Diablo 3, and that was like it. So it's like GameStop probably did Valve a favor by just dropping PC gaming entirely. So, however, again, that was my very first thought on hearing this. I later realized, oh, this is much bigger than that. So, and the stock sort of spread to other ones like AMC and with Bed Bath and Beyond and some others. So it's still unfortunate that GameStop is being given a new life out of all this, but I can see now it's much bigger than that. So that's something. Yeah. Okay. So I have some of my thoughts on this don't change depending on what I know so far. Others, it really does depend on like what the details are. Okay. So we're going to try and attempt this in the chat, depending how many financial experts we have in the chat, because there's some part of this that's kind of hazy for me. Okay, so chat, for if you know this, this is not the first short squeeze to happen. Yeah, for anybody who doesn't know what happened, just real quick, a bunch of Redditors got together, saw GameStop was like over leveraged with shorts. It was shorted to hell and back. So they all rallied, bought a bunch of the stock, which caused the hedge funds, which are shorting it, to lose a bunch of money. And there was a short squeeze. And then from there, everything gets crazy. I'm not entirely sure of the details, but I know some of them. Okay, so here's one of my questions. Let's say you did want to do a short squeeze. Like you see a bunch of companies are shorting this stock, but you like that stock or you think it has value. So you're going to buy it, or you know a bunch of other people are going to buy it too. You do that. How normal is it under those circumstances for like a brokerage to not be able to sell you more of the stock because it's too volatile? Like they're worried like the clearinghouses won't have enough money or to cover the getting blurry again, to cover it. Like is that something that can be reasonably expected to happen, or does that like almost never happen, or maybe it has never happened? I don't know. But because I feel like that makes a difference, because I feel like the Wall Street, so I'm saying no, that is normal. Some saying one's saying it's pretty normal. Ross, I have no idea whether it's normal or not. It's called lock limit up. Okay, it happened with Enron. I guess I'm curious for the Wall Street bets people. Let's see. Yes, it happens. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm curious, like how much the Wall Street bets people knew that was a possibility. You know, that they wouldn't be able to buy more stocks if they all rallied and tried to be on the other end of the short. Because okay, like at face value, like it sounds kind of outrageous. Like you would, but I don't know a lot about stocks. That you know, like oh, they won't sell you the stock. You know that. yeah. Okay, so here's so here's some facts which I get. I'm trying to think of how to phrase this. The One of my general conclusions, which sort of doesn't depend on the details, is what I'm noticing out of all of this is at first this sort of looked like a conspiracy theory that the Wall Street is all colluding to keep people from getting wealthy. But then as I learned a lot of details, that may have not been the case. It's all fuzzy. However, what I realized is it sort of backs up that there's systemic corruption that looks almost identical to if there was intentional corruption, if you see what I'm saying. So the idea is the results are about the same whether if you wanted to stop this stock from spiraling out of control on purpose or not, or if just the whole system's rigged that way to begin with. Because what happened is they bought a bunch of the stocks, the price started going up, then it started making news cycles in which bumped it up even more. And then like the Discord for Wall Street bets got shut down. That part does seem probably more intentional. Google deleted Robinhood started freezing. Robinhood, which was one of the apps for the brokerages that was handling this, they started freezing trades. They started freezing trades on those stocks or being able to buy more of them. A lot of other brokerage firms did that. And then the White House issues a statement saying they're going to be monitoring the situation. So it's like if you wanted, I want to say there's, Google deleted 100,000 negative reviews of Robinhood after they froze the stock, or froze purchases of the stock. So it's like if you wanted to have a concerted effort and then the news cycles are like trying to I think there was was it CNBC had some posts that were where one guy's on national television saying that it's like, well, maybe this was foreign influence. It's like, what, or but basically, if you did want a conspiracy, I guess let's say this was all coordinated, then that's probably what it would look like. However, the narrative I'm hearing now is that this is probably a bunch of coincidences that just happens to look like it was a conspiracy. So it's like the end result is the same whether you had people conspiring against it or not. So it's sorry, my thoughts and words on this are all over the place, but okay, so the narrative I'm hearing now, so here's the other question for it. The narrative I'm hearing now is actually reasonable in quotes here, that they froze these trades because if they had just allowed them, then there wouldn't have been enough money to, again, I'm sure I'm butchering the understanding of this, but hopefully I'm getting the basic concepts. There wouldn't have been enough money in the clearinghouses or the brokerages to pay off for people to sell, not just on those stocks, but sell on anything. So in other words, let's say you're doing trades through Robinhood. If they hadn't frozen the GameStop stocks, then every single person, and they just kept letting it go, even though they didn't have the money to put up for it, to cover the other sides of the shorts, then every single person using Robinhood who sold anything would get $0. And see, that would explain maybe. I'm sure it's more complicated on this. I'm sure it's more complicated than this, but so that might explain why a bunch of brokerages kind of froze selling of the stock, or froze buying the stock. And what I've heard is that could lead to a loss of confidence in the market if multiple firms started doing that, and it could have actually triggered another like collapse of the stock market. Is that true? I think the CEO of Webull was saying something like that. So I guess I think it's called contagion when that happens in the stock market. Could that have caused a chain reaction? A lot of it's psychological, where if they see a brokerage just go down, so everybody who had stocks using that just gets nothing. Okay, I'm seeing a big no. Okay, well, one guy's saying it's all hype. Yeah, you really need somebody more knowledgeable than me to talk about, but this kind of impacts my opinion. So far, it's just one guy saying no. It was just to scare the investors. See, maybe, well, yeah, again, it was the CEO of Webull who I thought was saying something like that. Oh, yeah. See, this is another point that I've heard. Ross, Robinhood sold people's stock without their consent. Yeah, I heard that. Oh, see, this is where everything gets so muddy because I heard that, but then I also heard that could be normal if they're margin calls. So, in other words, if you had stock through Robinhood, but you hadn't put up collateral for it, like it was based on another loan, then they could call that, and then they would sell those, but see, I don't know if that's a reasonable explanation or if that's what actually happened or it's BS. See, I'm kind of assuming nothing here because I'm not assuming people are lying or telling the truth because I've seen this sort of thing with that's the other thing. Robinhood is owned by Citadel, which was also on the other side. I think they were also trying to short GameStop, and Citadel also, I think it came out, paid like what $800,000 to the Treasury Secretary now for speaking fees. So that's what I'm saying. This looks so corrupt, like on the outside, and I don't know. I'm really tempted to think that the bank, it really is all corrupt, and the question is whether it's intentional or systemic corruption. In other words, if you're obeying all the laws, nobody's doing anything illegal, then it's still corrupt just to how it's set up. That's how systemic corruption works. Whereas intentional corruption means like you're in there trying to screw people on purpose and breaking laws and doing it, that sort of thing. So. Well, somebody's saying, yeah, see, this is what I mean by systemic corruption. Yellen's got nothing to do with Robinhood. I can believe that. However, if you may not want that person, do you think the Treasury Secretary is going to investigate? I'm not even sure if that's within her purview, though, because I think that's more the SEC. But the point is, it is hard for me to imagine the Treasury Secretary taking any economic action that would affect Citadel in a very negative way under any circumstances if they have paid her, $0.8 million. I guess that's what it means. That's how a lot of politics works now. It's not like, most politics aren't bribes where, they give you a bunch of money, they give a politician a bunch of money and then say, hey, do this. It's more like we'll donate, we donate like hundreds of thousands of dollars to your campaign, and we keep doing that. And then later we have our lobbyists kind of approach you asking if we can get, hey, maybe we could get some provisions in this bill, that sort of thing. Like this is like years later that they're asking for that. And if this company's been funding your campaign, well then, yeah, maybe we will do that because this is super important for me staying elected. So that's an example of the sort of gray zone corruption. But okay, back to the Wall Street bet stuff. okay, so it's unclear to me whether if these like safety locks in there were necessary or if that's even a legitimate explanation for what happened. But for sake of argument, let's say they were. Let's say if they hadn't like put a halt on being able to buy games excuse me, GameStop stock, then it would have led to like a chain reaction and caused brokerages to go out of business. Everybody loses their money involved, which causes more to clamp down. Yeah, it might have been like sort of like the equivalent of like a run on the bank, and then the stock market crashes. So let's say that was the only way to keep the stock market from crashing. Well, that screwed this is one of the very few times, maybe ever, that small investors on the stock market have been able to come out on the other side of like a major hedge fund and get rich in the process. So it's kind of showing that like the one opening that they've had, like the one like biggest opening for that sort of thing. Sorry, my voice is kind of going. That, oh, we can't have that because that'll crash the stock market. So it's like making sure it's kind of like what people are saying. It's like, no, like even in like the one chance you had to really make it, no, we can't do that because then that would crash everything. So it kind of shows it's systemically rigged, even if that's not the intent of like individual actors. So let's see. But it kind of shows that this is a terrible, terrible system economically, because how many people's retirements are tied up into the stock market? See, the thing is with the stock market, like so much of it is just like sorry, I'm gonna give some water. I haven't been doing a lot of voice recording lately, so it's let me. It's left me more out of the loop here. I'll probably catch up at some point. Yeah, I mean, so there's a portion of, well, so much of Wall Street is basically sophisticated gambling. You know, like if you're a days trader, you know, you're not worried about long-term investment in a company. You're waiting for a stock to go up or down based on whatever information you have. And if it goes up, great, you sell, we make some money. And you try to stay above average with your gains over your losses. So it's what? It's just basically gambling. And I'm not really against people being able to gamble, but when you tie that into basically the fabric of society being able to function, then that's an enormous problem, which is kind of what we got rid of early, I think with, was it Glass-Steagall? We used to separate commercial from investment banking. So I see the whole system as it functions as a whole, kind of incredibly corrupt and dangerous for just the long-term stability of society. I mean, it might sound ridiculous, but like last year, the Federal Reserve started buying corporate junk bonds as a response to the stock starting to crash from the pandemic because the economy was going through the floor, and that's what kept it propped up. I'm pretty sure we spent trillions of dollars on that. And that's basically taxpayer money, or money we printed, which kind of devalues the money you have. I mean, in the long term, I guess. But that, and this is buying it from corporate junk bonds. So in other words, these are incredibly rich companies that made bad decisions, or not having enough of the safety net for themselves to handle shock waves like the pandemic. Meanwhile, that the American people got just like a fraction of that, just the smallest amount. And it's like we're tying retirements to the stock market instead of, so the gambling affects that. And then the way we have so much consolidation with how companies even operate, that this kind of gambling affects just everything. So, and when I say this kind of gambling, I mean just everything. Like, don't think for a moment that I think like what the Wall Street bet people did, like, oh, that's the real problem. No, that was just like, one, I'm not even convinced that was even, the Wall Street bets people are clearly on the side of, hey, we're gonna throw all our money in, gamble, live large, and just have a thrill trying to get rich or going broke and going nuts instead from that. The Wall Street bets people, they come across to me as like completely honest in their intentions. Like, there's somebody who would like, this is like their version of Vegas. This is their version of Vegas. Man, my voice is like, it actually doesn't hurt that much. It's just like, man, it just fell off a cliff. I haven't been doing enough recording for the videos, so. It doesn't hurt, it's just like deflating here. So yeah, it's, yeah, I mean, the Wall Street bets, yeah, you can argue they're totally reckless, which I think they'd probably agree with, but I get that mentality, I mean, me personally, I kind of feel like people should be free to do that. And it would be great if we had a system that those people can still have a place to sleep and eat, even if they make terrible decisions. So that's kind of my mentality on that. But I understand that the thrill of that they want from that. But it's kind of this whole incident is kind of shining a flashlight on what the I don't know if the Washington Post said that the hedge funds are the real heroes of all the, yeah, no, they're no heroes. I mean, the wall, I guess you can say the Wall Street bets people are heroes in the same way that somebody like Evel Knievel is a hero. Like, whoa, he jumped over that cliff through a ring of fire and landed, and he's still alive. Yeah, like, I think that's how I think that's the kind of hero the Wall Street bets people are here. Like, whoa, they pulled this off. Like, but for Wall Street in general, I don't see any heroes in that system. I can't think of, I can't think of, it's just, well, I mean, it's a lot of predatory stuff, really, but I go on forever with that. So yeah, this turned into a meandering mess. But I'm not sure if, this is kind of shining a flashlight on just how terrible a system is. Boy, my voice is collapsing. This could be a problem. Of how terrible a system our economy is set up. Well, I mentioned before, I thought this is one of like the levels of crisis we have facing us. Maybe if I talk quieter, I don't know. Like, okay, if I talk maybe I'll bring the mic down or something. Because man, my voice is. Okay, I guess I'll have to lower the volume some. I mean, I can't emphasize as much. Because, I mean, this is probably getting hard to listen to. Sorry about that. But yeah, it's calling attention to it. I'm extremely cynical if anything helpful will come from it, aside from the people who made out on Wall Street bets. So yeah, I've always kind of wondered about the Wall Street bets logo, because I had seen that before, and it sort of struck me as like a cross between Richie Rich and the Wall Street Kid from the video game. But yeah, see, somebody's saying a break. I mean, it might help, but the thing is, my throat doesn't hurt. It's just collapsing. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, if you did happen to make millions out of this, feel free to throw me some crumbs. I guarantee I will put it to better use than any hedge fund on Wall Street. It'll, food, rent, maybe some computer parts or future videos. So, okay, we'll see how long I can keep this up going. Man, I hope I didn't screw up the video chat here. But yeah, it's an unknown to me. Would this have caused a collapse in the stock market, or is that just a line that we're hearing? And could the shrewder Wall Street bets people have known that the risk of being shut out from buying GameStop stock, from doing the short squeeze, was going to happen because of how the stock market's structured? So I don't know. I realized the one time I've heard about this sort of thing, like a little guy making a lot of money being on the other end of, it is fictional, from the movie Trading Places with Eddie Murphy, Dan Aykroyd. If you haven't seen that, I highly recommend that movie. It's hilarious. It's one of Eddie Murphy's best. But it was different, but they pull off a similar sort of dynamic, where they're kind of using the rich hedge funds tactics against them, is what they're doing in that. Turn those machines back. Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen that, but it's a great movie. It's a pretty solid comedy. Let's see. But yeah, it's a mess, and it's I think the only heroes in this are the Wall Street bets people, in the same way that somebody doing a really awesome stunt jump is a hero, and they didn't kill themselves, like, except it looks like maybe some of them did kill themselves in the process financially, but metaphorically, hopefully not. Hopefully not literally. But yeah, I get the mentality. I'm not like that with money. I'm not big into gambling unless I have a lot of confidence in what. And even then, I don't want to bet like ridiculous amounts. Yeah, probably the biggest gambling I ever did was when people were criticizing that I wasn't going to finish Freeman's Mine in time. That I got sick of it, so I started taking bets that I would or not. But even then, I think the grand total of people who bet against me was something like $150. So it wasn't like, it wasn't to the moon there. So, okay, more questions. Have you been enjoying your vacation, Ross? Does your mind feel clearer? Yeah, some. It's kind of a mix. Like, it was crazy. I had to like fight all these instincts to like actually stop and just stop working on things because I was worried I would fall behind too much. I ended up taking about 4, maybe 5 days off. And it was interesting. Like the first 2 days, basically all I did was, besides exercise and basic chores, just play games and watch the movies. And like the first 2 days, I did it and just no regrets at all. Like just, that's all I did, and was just having fun with it. And by the third day, it's like I still wanted to do that, but I found myself actually wanting to work on something constructive. Like not work like 12 hours a day or anything, but like do something constructive to kind of counterbalance it. So, and I've been sort of resuming a slower work pace since then, but I don't know. My mind's just kind of scrambled on this. Like I realize what it feels like is what the like it's obviously not on the same level, but like like war veterans who just like some of them, it's just like they just can't believe the war's over. Yeah, it's just like, what are you talking about? It's a ceasefire. They're coming back, and like they just can't let their guard drop. It feels a little bit like that with like meaning to work on things. So I'll try to have a balance. We'll see. I think, I hope, hey, I managed to go through last year just barely for one part with not doing an all-nighter, where I just stayed up all night working. So have these periods where I was working literally 24 hours a day, except for, just food. And those were awful. I hated that. But I'm basically managed to not do that in 2020. So this year, I think I'm going to try to get down to a more sane pace. I mean, again, I'm not a workaholic by choice. It's just out of, I'm basically testing the line between what I can do to be financially okay in the long term versus not having to work around the clock. So uh, I'm I plan to continue my trend of going to sleep when I want to, so and just kind of ease in from there. So. Oh, somebody asking about 3D modeling. 3D modeling is one of those things I'm going to need help with much later on. I have a lot of things. I mean, unless it's like creature organic modeling, then I might have more use for that for the movie. But I have a lot of problems to solve with. I had a lot of people offering to do like static 3D modeling that I'm just not at that phase yet. I'm trying to tackle all the hardest stuff for the movie first. Okay, some more questions. So he's asking, what are some of your favorite mythological or urban legendary creatures? I was having trouble thinking of them, actually. I guess I'm kind of behind. What the... I guess I'm just sort of drawing a blank. I guess the one that just keeps coming to mind is the Gorgon, because that's one, it sees something and they get turned to stone, and just like well, I mean, that's the plot of Clash of the Titans, that this is like the ultimate monster coming to destroy the city, and gets Medusa's head, and like that thing can stop even the Kraken, so it's like I found that kind of fascinating in a sense. And then the fact that Medusa is a half snake hybrid with snakes for hair, and it has the turn to stone ability. I always found that kind of neat. So when someone's asking zombies, I'm not sure zombies really count as an urban legend, because it's not like, oh yeah, there's a zombie out in the woods, but you probably won't find. I mean, zombies' whole appeal is in numbers. Zombies. A zombie by themselves, just who cares, But it's the exponential growth element of zombies that has the fascination to them. Yeah, so I was saying Medusa's fun. Medusa heads are off. Yeah, Medusa heads are not fun in Castlevania. That's true. But okay, so keep going. Do you think communism will see a resurgence because of automation, massive unemployment, and do you think it could work because of said factors? No, I don't think it will. I mean, I was actually kind of thinking, does the Communist Party, like as a political party, even exist in the United States? Like, I was thinking, the fact that I don't even know kind of says how influential they are. I mean, communism had much more of an influence like back in like the 20s or the 30s. Like, but in the United States, at least, that just got snuffed out in the 50s, especially. Although I think even in the 40s, they were kind of cracking down on like basically any anti-war groups, which I think also included like communists and socialists. In the 50s with like the Red Scare and McCarthy, I mean, that got cracked down, and I'm not sure it ever really got back up. I mean, usually if you have like kind of you're saying because of automation, massive unemployment, I think what you have coming from, I mean, I'm not trying to be pessimistic, but if I was to guess, I think what you have coming from that are just like general periods of instability. So you might have more kind of banana republic style uh, rule of law, where maybe a powerful dictator gets in the charge, or oligarchs that, or because even if you have a revolt, the people, if you have like a collapse of a system, usually what comes next is whoever is best organized and most best organized and like has ready to seize power, you know. So yeah, like I think in the French Revolution, I mean Napoleon's basically the one who stepped up from that because he was in the military. He knew a thing or two about power, so and how to and use that to kind of try to stabilize France to some degree. And then he went and tried to conquer the world. But somebody saying Napoleon was based. Well, I wouldn't go that far, but yeah, maybe prior to the conquering the world part. But the point is, it's like whoever steps in and can stabilize things, and is probably what's going to happen next. And I don't think, I think communism's way down there in terms of influence right now. I mean, that's like, I mean, because the thing is, even if it wasn't like a political party, if it was like an organization that had like a lot of public awareness, that sort of thing, then they could maybe steer things in that direction. But I don't think it has that either. I mean, it's pretty fringe right now. So it's, I'm not aware of, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. I think if I were to just guess as to like what happens next, if you have like a failed state situation, is you look to a lot of South American countries, maybe which one most resembles it, where you can have like you have a revolt because the existing government's so corrupt, they overthrow them, and then like a warlord or somebody takes power, and guess what? They're not much better than the old government, or they're better in some ways, a lot worse than others, and then it can be kind of ugly. So it's unfortunately, I see that's the kind of I see that's where the most powerful and organized forces are coming from. So, and let's see. Oh yeah, the other part. I mean, yeah, they're saying could it work because of it? Well, again, I'm thinking mostly of America. Again, I think the mentality is very. Again, you have decades and decades of basically demonizing communism. So it's you don't undo that anytime soon. I mean, now if now this is on a macro level. On a micro level, I mean, shoot, you could probably put together a commune tomorrow. It's if you have a lot of people who are on the same page. Yeah, I mean, I guess on a smaller scale, I think what you might see more of is I don't know about full communism, but I think probably not full communism, but you might have more of like if just the government is just completely abandoning just tons of communities and just nobody's coming to help. For the ones that a lot of them, it's just going to be destitute. It's going to be awful. But for the ones that kind of make it, you'll probably see a lot more cooperation among, community members. Like if there's some farmers in the area, like a lot more kind of, I don't know, you probably just have like a lot more kind of democracy, more direct democracy, where if you have a few farmers and there's a lot of people who can't afford food, it's like, well, we can maybe direct more of surplus harvest towards them or that sort of thing. Or there's a lot of like critical repairs to the water supply. Like, okay, you might have more bartering or things like that. Or Yeah. I think you might. I think that's what you might see more of. I don't know how you'd classify that exactly, but for communities that have a better chance to make it, you might see more bartering, I think, of services and just sharing in general. But that's no guarantee that's what happens. I think a lot of places it's going to go to hell. So, but okay. So moving on to questions. Let's see. Yeah, I'm going in the order. They're not listed for me randomly. So that was one of the more upvoted questions there. Have you been on any spacewalks? Have they supplied you with spacesuits, or is your moon base just maintained by drones or something? Well, for moon gaming, I kind of see it like I just ended up here. You know, like you're drugged, and then you wake up in your new area, and you're given the information, so you're not sure what happened. No, I've never been on a spacewalk. I think the highest I've ever been is just in a plane, just commercial passenger planes. So let's see. I'm actually not really in a rush to get really high up because ever since I learned that the atmosphere kind of shields us from a fair amount of radiation. So look, I'll fess up. I'm kind of a chicken when it comes to radiation. Like I don't. I like to keep that pretty low. So my REM count exposure. Let's see. What do you think is the? Yeah, I don't have a great answer for this one. What do you think is the greatest counterattack against the corporate push towards digital feudalism? Basically, the concept that what that for online things you own nothing. It's all just rental. Well, I mean, for games, I'm trying to pursue the efforts, and like I think France is like one of the last. I think France has the best chance with consumer laws of being able to push back against this. So if there could be even a victory in even one country like that could maybe spread to others. For games, it's to the point where it could kind of see games. It's a little different because destroying the companies. Some people disagree with this, and maybe this is the case for some companies. I think there might be a chance for success with games because the goal of the companies isn't to destroy the games. That's just collateral damage. They don't care, So whereas something like trying to get rid of loot boxes, oh no, they really want that. They do not want loot boxes being removed. So they're going to fight that tooth and nail. So if a company just had to have an end of life plan, that there's potential for that, but yeah. So, but for other things, yeah, where you just have loss of all ownership. I mean, I guess for things that it applies to, having alternatives that are viable, but unfortunately, usually the software that's kind of locked down that dishes out can also sometimes have the most resources and be the best, and there's not always a full equivalent towards it. Let's see. So yeah, I mean, you can have coming up with viable alternatives, however realistic that is, because it's not for other things. I mean, let's see. I think I had another thought on this, but I might have lost it. See, now my voice seems to be coming back, so that's good. Okay. Oh yeah, I haven't checked the levels though since I moved the mic closer. Oh wow, this is gonna be a mess in terms of balancing. I might want to take a look at it afterwards. Yeah. Okay. For other things like yeah, well. Yeah, like with bunch of Adobe software. I don't plan on moving to CC stuff where they charge you a monthly fee as opposed, I mean, good God, how many years I've used the Premiere 5.5 for the videos. I mean, it's come out cheaper this way. Yeah, but probably moving to alternatives when available. When possible, try to push the government, but again, it's not optimistic. Like I mean, I've more or less given up for games. I've more or less given up hope for trying to have the trying to make progress legally in the United States for protecting games. Not because I don't think there isn't a legal argument, but because I think we're kind of seeing more and more that it's not always about what the law says. It's about how the system wants to enforce things and where the powerful interests are. Kind of like with the Wall Street bets things, you know, if this wasn't Wall Street bets and it was a major hedge firm doing the exact same thing, well, actually, I think some of them did do that. They got in on the action. Then there wouldn't. Then I don't think the White House would be monitoring the situation, or there would be calls for new regulations, or it's. No, I haven't given up hope on game. Yeah, but I'm CIA. I mentioned him in the games list video with the. No, actually, I've been injecting him into my veins practically over my break. I managed to get through. Yeah, not to get too morbid, but I realized that was one of the other things I was thinking of when wanting a break is with the pandemic going around. I was thinking, odds are I'll be fine, but let's say I wasn't. Let's say like the Reaper's coming. It's like, do I really want to be spending my last days just working on more videos? It's like, no, I want to catch up on all these games. So I kind of want to balance that mentality between trying to get more out versus if I'm in trouble, I kind of want to regret less my end days. So, yeah, no, I played several good ones. Okay, so yeah, I'm afraid I don't have easy. Well, that was the other thing, of course. Well, for games at least, it's not a solution, but I think it could open up some doors. Like what I mentioned with the Dream software. Because some of these games, if we're just ripping out, I would not discount what's possible with AI in the future. I mean, I still don't think it's going to become self-aware. That's a whole other level. But I think we haven't seen the full extent of what. I think it's going to kick open a lot of doors with what's possible. So the Dream software really was. It's not a great weapon, but it really is a way that could possibly fight back if efforts were made along those lines. So, no ergo proxy future. I don't know what that means, I'm afraid. My Latin is not great. I mean, I know what proxy means, and let's see what's ergo mean. Because it was. Oh, okay. They're saying it's an anime. Okay, well then, double why I don't know that. But yeah, for I am very optimistic on AI's potential for things where it's a matter of recognizing patterns, because that is something computers can get good at, So, I mean, once you get into more esoteric philosophical stuff that, consciousness, then yeah, I really don't think we're getting there with no matter how good our AIs get. But patterns and trying to replicate behaviors, that's I think we have a lot of growth potential there. So, yeah, unfortunately, I don't have good answers. Well, I don't have good answers. This is why I made that Games as a Service video, because I always realized that this was just such a kill switch for like a threat towards preserving things or just being able to retain what you have, the yeah, I guess come up with alternatives, as many as you can, you know. So that's where games are kind of unique, because video, you can record it. Music, you can record it, you know, or keep a copy of it. Software, you can, a lot of it you can find alternatives, not always, but you know, some you can find completely viable alternatives. So if the company's pulling this kind of crap, then you can just exit out the door. Games are unique, you know. I mean, movies are unique, but you can save them. Games, if they pull the plug, you don't have your game anymore. So it's like that. That's why I feel like they're just like the highest threat of being lost. And plus, they're fun, so that makes it all worse, you know? All right, more questions. I'm glad my voice came back. You know, this is how it is with recording sessions, actually. When I usually don't do more than like 20 minutes at a time when I do them. Occasionally I've gone to like 40, but because my voice will just collapse and then it just comes back later. So it's too bad it failed on the Wall Street part. But, all right. Okay. I've noticed a lot of media from the 20th century predicted the near future as grandiose and technically superior. Robots, flying cars. Do you think people of the era were just bigger dreamers and thought big only to be woken from the realities of the 21st century? Or did we just stagnate technologically? No, I think it's plenty of big dreamers now. No, I think it was more just, it's like that's where it looked like things were going. Because again, remember, like we at the beginning of the 1900s, we had what the Wright brothers doing the first mechanized flight, you know, your first heavier than air flight, and then by the 60s we're landing on the moon. So that's a pretty big jump along there. And then we're transitioning from horses everywhere to just supercars, you know, to sports cars that can, you know, I forget. And we went from what basically candlelight to just electronic everything. You know, things like Vegas. You know, where just everything's lit up. So it's like we had from, if you were in the middle of that, it really looks like everything's just accelerating and increasing, just like you can't believe it. So it seems like a natural reaction to think that just the future, just you can't even imagine how it's incredible it's going to be. So, I mean, a lot of things did slow down, obviously, with technological development. I mean, with computers, obviously not. We kept that going all the way. But so that translates into some things, not to others. Well, it's like I mentioned, I think it was the Robot Jobs video. You know, we made such incredible progress with things like flight and then space travel. But then we run into physics and how the universe is absolutely enormous. And there really were limits to our progress. However, while we were along that train, it looked like it just could kind of keep going up forever. So I think that's kind of reflected more in a lot of the and a lot of how people perceive the future as being, you know. So yeah, it's like I mentioned, it's like what I'm talking about with resources. The difference between infinite resources and copious resources isn't very big, you know, at first. You know, it looks about the same. And I kind of feel like that's how we've structured a whole society and everything, is that because if it, I mean, for in the past, it may as well have been infinite resources. It's just that if you structure your system around that, then you eventually run into problems later on. So he's saying the number one enemy of space travel is bureaucracy. Well, to a point, But like, let's say we wanted to visit the next galaxy. Well, not the next galaxy. The next solar system. What's the closest one? Alpha Centauri, or the closest star? I don't think bureaucracy is our biggest problem with that. Oh, okay. Somebody's saying no. It's yeah. People are mentioning radiation. You know. Okay, somebody's saying Proxima Centauri. I thought it was Alpha Centauri, but maybe not. I'm not sure. But this is what, like 4 light years away. What's the fat? Okay, let's say we threw. Okay. Here's a question for the chat might know. I don't know what our top speed is in space. So let's say we just threw everything behind it. We built just the most amazing spaceship. How long would it take us to get to Alpha Centauri? So do the math. You know, I know it's 4 light years away. Guess what? We can't go the speed of light. It's not Star Trek. You know, actually, Star Trek goes several times faster than the speed of light, I think. So like, look up like what the max speed is for astronauts traveling in space, and okay, 100 years. Somebody's saying that they've heard. That sounds about right. So again, it's yeah, plaid. Somebody's saying 5 to 10 years. No, this. I mean, the thing is, we can accelerate more and more up to a point, you know, but we got to have fuel for that, you know. So we kind of just want to hit our max speed and then just sit there and live it out, you know. Let's see. So yeah, there really are limits with space. You know, we're gonna have to have some Star Trek-like breakthroughs in order to make more progress on that. And maybe that's possible, maybe it's not. So, but yeah, I think there's all kinds of imagination now, but it's I think we get to see it more easily than ever because of the internet. Hey, I mentioned I've been rating a lot of deviant art stuff. I plan to later. I'm going to make like a giant wallpaper archive. I'm going to run them through AI processing to blow them up the wallpaper size, and then just being able to set it randomly, so I can just hit a hotkey and have it switch randomly, and then I'll be set for wallpapers for a couple of years. Won't even have to think about it. And then when I get tired of one, I can just hit a button, come up with another random one. So, but on the DeviantArt stuff, a lot of the stuff I was grabbing show these kind of like utopian, futuristic-looking societies that look great. So some of those make some pretty nice wallpapers. So, but no, I think that had to do with like the people in the middle of that. It just seemed like the progress is endless, you know. Whereas in our time, we're seeing limits of some of our progress more clearly now, you know. That's kind of why I'm excited about AI. I think AI is one of those things where like, no, we have a ways to go. There's exciting stuff coming from that. But use wallpaper engine. I already found a command line thing. I just hit a hotkey now. I had to tie it into auto hotkey. Let's see. Are you worried about normalized aggressive microtransactions spreading into operating systems? I recently had Windows 10 prompt me to go to the Microsoft Store to buy a video codec for 99 cents. I'm worried it's spreading. I hadn't heard of codecs doing like that. Am I worried about that? Yeah, certainly. I mean, Windows 10 really does represent like a paradigm shift, in my opinion. I mean, it's the fact that the fact that you have to jump through so many hoops to just have it left alone, you know, just like the internet is not going to like screw with it or change things. If you just want the option to leave it alone and connect to the internet, then it's like the level of steps you have to take, it gets pretty substantial. So, yeah, I mean, I hadn't even thought about them monetizing video codecs, but you know, this is one of the reasons I'm kind of like focused on like compatibility and finding programs I can need, so that if everything goes to absolute hell on this front, I can be kind of a Luddite and just only be using stuff from around now that I can still do a whole lot of things with that I use the computer for, like editing and games and music and stuff. And I can just, I compare, I talk with a friend of mine, I compared what I've done with my Windows 10 install is like, it's the equivalent of the way I have my system set up. It's the equivalent of like this guy in the digital equivalent of like a guy in his bunker who has like a water purifier, like the air filtration filters, canned food, seeds, like, so it's like he's probably overreacting, but if there are problems, he's glad he has his bunker. So, and man, there have been big bugs with the updates in both December and in January. Like there was one that was causing blue screens on some systems, and there was another one that was like spiking the CPU usage to 100%. And like I dodged both of those. So from my perspective, it's like my bunker already took 2 shots. Like, oh, good, that just went to the concrete. It didn't enter my house. Great. So, let's see. Yeah, somebody's saying we gave up so much of our rights and freedoms. It's the thing is, it's not like we were given a choice. It's more like they were kind of. I mean, you were and you weren't. It's like, yeah, you could stay on your old software, but if you needed additional functionality, like with me with VR, well, then you have to move to something else, and that something else comes with these costs that they're roping in on it. So, it's, yeah, our hands are forced. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, if it depends on what you use the computer for. I mean, I'm actually thinking of, what was it? George R. R. Martin, the Game of Thrones author. He uses like this real old school computer to type his to write his novels. I think he had a friend who helped maintains it for him. I forget which model it is, but I mean I think we're talking like an 80s system. Well, he's a writer. If he doesn't care too much about going online, you know what? System from the 80s can certainly type some papers, like if you don't need any special particular formatting, if you just need to write a book, sure. I mean, a typewriter could. So it kind of depends on like what your usage level is for like where you fall on different things. So I can maybe handle I have the luxury of maybe being able to go kind of Luddite in the future if things get too bad, but I know some people who I've heard of a lot of stories where if you're working at that company, you have to have Office 365, so because that's what the company uses, so you have to use that for your job. So I actually have a friend of mine who he started for a company he works for. They're kind of wanting to install more and more invasive software on a system. So he finally just bit the bullet, and he's gone full virtual machine for that sort of thing. So like he's just like, all right, fine. It's just like, I'll install a virtual machine. You can install any crap you want on there. That way it doesn't have to contaminate the rest of the system. So okay, so more questions. Let's see. Will you ever do a game dungeon from mods, such as Cry of Fear? I still need to play Cry of Fear. Sure, I could do a game dungeon. I don't know if I have any planned right off the top of my head, but for sure a mod could qualify. It doesn't have... Although it would probably have to be like a total conversion kind of deal. So, because it depends. Like, it would have to have enough going for it that's not like just modded values, or I could give it a mention or something, but in order for it to get a full episode, it'd probably have to be like a total conversion. What kind of project management methods and software do you use? Do you have some examples to share on how you use them to benefit your workflow? Well, it's pretty much, it's a mess in some ways. Like for what I've done because I'm probably going to need to step up this. A whole lot of what I've done in the past, I'm doing the lion's share of the work. So there's like only one, there'll be only like a few elements I'm communicating with other people on. So really for that, I would just kind of use emails and just sort of sort them by category, like for what they were helping me with. And for what I'd be working on my end, it honestly was as simple in some cases as just having like lists of things that I'd need. Like I've gotten in the habit now when I do a new game dungeon, after it's done, I might look over the script, and then I'll kind of like look at. I'll have like different categories of what I'm looking for. Where, like if I need images, like oh yeah, I'm gonna need image there. If I'm gonna need like an extra sound effect or some music files, I'll list that. If I what if or video clips, like something I've seen from a movie or YouTube that I want to show to have an illustration of something, I'll list all that stuff, and then I go through and try to collect it, or sometimes text I want to insert at the bottom, and I just kind of break that into categories and just kind of it's just a text file really. Now, if I'm going to be communicating with a bunch of people, I'm probably going to need something a little more robust, but I haven't figured out what I'm doing there yet. I mean, even with the editors, I'm still just kind of keeping it sorted by email. You know, what I've found is that I can be a competent manager if that's all I'm doing. So if I'm spread out across many different areas, I'm really not a great manager. So I had a project manager for the movie, but he ended up needing to step down. He said he wasn't feeling up to it, so I may have to find someone else later on, but I'll see. Someone where, you know, they're just kind of keeping track of the project for me, you know, like I'm still like directing it, but they're kind of keeping details of like what still needs to be done, where we're going, our problem areas, you know, remembering what needs to be prioritized, that sort of thing. I probably juggle more of this in my head, way more of this in my head than I should. Let's see. Oh yeah, I mentioned how I mentioned the nameless mod in the Deus Ex episode. I did play 2027, I think was the name of it, for Deus Ex. That was a total convert. That was pretty decent. I was surprised. Yeah. If you're hungry for more Deus Ex, check out the 2027 mod. It's some year. I think it was 2027. Okay. But yeah, I'm afraid I don't have great answers. Although in me switching, yeah, I guess at the moment I'm using Notepad 2 for my text files. I tried Notepad++, but I didn't have it was doing weird things with the text where this could be because of my DPI settings, where I think that's kind of more for coders, Notepad++, which I'm not using it for. I wanted to set a custom font, and what I noticed was if you looked in closely, it's like it was scale. It wasn't matching the font size. It was like kind of stretching it and like using nearest neighbor ring sampling, and it just looked a little off. And I think that might be because of my DPI settings. And it's not super obvious, but if you're somebody who's staring at a bunch of text and writing, you start noticing it, and it's just how it wasn't quite as clear. So let's see. Haven't you tried Windows 10 LTSC? Windows 10 LTSC does not work with Windows Mixed Reality, which I need for my VR headset. This is what I mean. You know, it locks you out. You know, and I think even it might not even work for like newer DirectX 12 stuff, though that's still pretty limited. But I'm afraid I do not like bluegrass music, if it's what I'm thinking of. So sorry. But, okay, some more. Let's see. More questions. Lost track. Any updates on the Dream software? Has anyone contacted you or even started work on it? I got several replies. I've read most of them. There's a few I haven't gone over yet. The thing is with the Dream software, it's like I said in the video, I don't plan on developing this, guys. Like it was me tossing a coin into a wishing well. What I was hoping would come from that video is to get more people thinking along these lines, so that if they happen to be working on an AI project, that they might, and they're interested in gaming, it might occur to them, oh yeah, maybe we could swing it a little to the left here and maybe kind of get something going along those lines. What? Ah, geez, what I was gonna say. Had a thought, lost it. Oh yeah, there were two things I probably should have included in the Dream software video that I kind of cut it because of, apparently we're talking about that song from Dead Rising again. There was one, I kind of left out photogrammetry because I wasn't sure how much it applied to this. And it sounds like that may have problems too, where photogrammetry's kind of tuned for the real world, not for games. And apparently, like the texture sizes just get utterly massive. Whereas with a lot of games, well, I'd say almost vast majority of them, you have a bunch of repeated textures. So you don't need the same, you don't need the same level of fidelity on a game world that you would in the real world where the detail's almost infinite. And two, if you had an AI tuned to this sort of thing, then it could kind of look at the textures and try to detect if it's recognizing patterns. Like if you have like a road texture, the AI could kind of take its best guess. It's like, yeah, I think this looks like 93% similar to the texture we had over there. Let's see if we can kind of let's see if we can swap it out with just the same texture and see if we get similar results. So that's one thing you could do to cut down on. And the other thing is, I think those level of detail changes would play hell with photogrammetry because you're literally changing the model. So, and that doesn't really happen so much in the real world unless it's a moving object. You know, it just kind of moves and then it's gone. So, I'm not sure how viable that would be. And the other thing is a bunch of people were mentioning VR chat, which I still need to check out. Although I'm curious, is VR chat something you can run offline? In which case we're kind of recreating the same problem, if not. I haven't had a chance to check it yet. Oh, and somebody's mentioning Windows 10 AME, ameliorated. I tried that out. Yeah, that's another thing. Windows Mixed Reality will not run on Windows AME. Look, me using virtual reality here, it limits what again, it depends on your workload. And actually for Windows AME, I was testing, geez, I forget which one. I tested a couple DirectX 12 games on it. I think one of them did not, I lost my notes. One of them didn't work on Windows LTSC or Ameliorated Edition. Also, Ameliorated Edition was a real pain because they wanted like constant password checks or authorization checks for running software. That's more paranoid than I needed. That's going to get in the way of what I'm using the computer for. I made a Twitter post on it. Windows, the ameliorated version of Windows 10, I said is I called it the coming to get you edition. If you're worried that they're coming to get you, then go ahead and use Windows 10 ameliorated version because it definitely was paranoid on the security. I think it's if security is your number one concern, then and you need to use Windows 10, then ameliorated edition might be the one for you. So, and you need to connect to the internet on that same computer. Then, so yeah, let's see. Okay, so yeah, as for people working on it, I had several people tell me this does sound possible. Yeah, unfortunately, one thing I didn't express clearly because I realized it can be tricky writing those, and then that video I made was I was standing in front of the camera for maybe 6.5 hours, kind of remembering my lines and doing it till I got it right. and then I edited it down to what you saw. But one one part I left out was that you obviously can't take just any software, and mod it or add a feature to it that you want and mix and match like that. The idea was that because the software is closed, it might not be documented, the engine might not be capable of things you want to do with it. That of course is extremely impractical, if not impossible. And a bunch of people were probably going to point that out, but I realized, I didn't explain that clearly. I never thought that. But what I thought, like with Need for Speed 3, like what if you had another track or another track? My point was, let's say you took Need for Speed 3's assets, ripped them, put them into something like Unreal or Unity, and then made a driving game that behaves similarly to Need for Speed 3. Well, then you can import a track from anything, because then you have your codes open, and then you can kind of use the Dream software to rip out these other tracks, and just throw them in there. That's what I was saying. I think I mostly communicated that, but like some people are saying, no, Ross, it's impossible. You don't know what you're talking about, blah, blah. So that's on me though. I realized, I didn't explain that as clearly as I should have. So I pinned a comment on that in the video. So let's see. Okay, I'll get a few more questions and I'll start taking. Okay, so we'll get at the point now where. Okay, well, I don't mind addressing this one. What? When the apocalypse eventually inevitably happens, how would you rebuild society and what ideology would you use? Well, I mean, it depends. That's a kind of loaded question because, apocalypse, that can mean a lot of different things. Is like an economic event worse than the Great Depression considered apocalypse? Or are we talking about like a meteor or slamming into the earth apocalypse? My ideology, I'll say this, whatever the apocalypse, my ideology would absolutely be survival. So I think that's a great goal I think that's a great one that scales, okay, personal survival of your people, people of your community, your nation, I think that's, I kind of look at things like, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, at the bottom, you have food, shelter, water, and then I think the next level is like security. So you want to make sure you're not going to go outside and get shot or that your water's safe to drink. I think what this question might be getting at is like with my politics. Here's the thing. My politics are fantasy and I know it. So it just kind of leaves me, kind of untethered for like how to approach so many different situations, since where I would want to take things is like it's like a different dimension of where we're going, that it's like, okay. Somebody sent me this a few years back. It was like a manifesto for, I think it's called the Venus Project. And the idea was like sort of sustainable. Basically, it would take our environmental resources into account with how we had our economy structured. But, I found I like 95% agree with that. But in that, they said it was like, this is not utopian. I'm thinking, no, this totally is utopian, what they were describing. And like, so it's, I mean, I would want stuff that kind of takes us to utopia, but there's, not only are there obstacles to that, but there are very, very powerful forces that want to take it, that want to destroy it. So, so here's a question for you. Whatever your ideology is, or whatever government system you want, how do you handle people who want to highly sophisticated people who want to destroy it, like no matter how long it takes, and they're going to play the long game on this? Because I mean, with my politics, basically, I want. I think I mentioned before, kind of utilitarian. I want maximum amount of people to meet their basic needs in a sustainable way. So I'm open and not have a tortured existence. So, however we get there, I'm pretty open-minded on. Except, not only do we not seem to be heading there, but like so many things. Guys, I'm kind of at like max. I feel like within the past couple years, I'm sort of at like max cynicism levels. Like I read recently that Rick Snyder, the former governor of Michigan, he was the guy in charge and his administration for basically poisoning Flint, Michigan. This, he switched the water lines to the Flint River, which is incredibly polluted. So it led to lead poisoning and all sorts of other horrendous chemicals. People drinking. It affected about 100,000 people, like over 100,000 people. I think you can tie. I've read recently he's being charged with 2 counts of like misdemeanor criminal negligence. So the maximum penalty is like a year in prison or $1,000 fine. So as far as I'm concerned, this is like this guy is basically a mass murderer. I think they can tie about 100 deaths to like directly to like switching the flip. But the thing is, he's probably afflicted like he's basically poisoned over 100,000 people, and probably most of those have some varying degrees of brain damage or other health impacts. So it's like we can't even stop that. I mean, I think we eventually stopped. They eventually switched the water back to the original, but it's like there hasn't been any damage mitigation beyond that. And I read another article saying that there's like, this is years ago, so it might be worse now. There's like 3,000 counties in the United States that have worse lead levels than was in Flint, Michigan. So it's like, we can't even hit the standards of don't poison the water. So it's like when we're talking about like our ideal systems, it's like, good God. Like, so not only could we not stop that, but we're giving a slap on the wrist for like one of our, in my opinion, like one of the worst tragedies of recent memory. So, I mean, and this is under what, on paper, a representative democracy. And it wasn't just him. It was like, I think there were 15 people underneath them that were also like highly responsible for this. And like this wasn't an accident. And like I think they had charges dropped because the story is complicated. But so it's like stuff like this makes me so cynical about where we're going that like it's like I mentioned in the follow-up video, my mind kind of swings back to the escapism stuff, because if it's something like aliens invading the earth or monsters coming from another dimension, like, oh, okay, my brain can handle that. That seems like a much more solvable problem. So, I mean, I'm glad we've mostly been able to keep a lid on nuclear war. I think that's a good like minimum baseline standard we should avoid, So, it's, yeah, I don't know. I mean, and with where we're going the long term with our environmental sustainability, that's really bad news. At least that one takes longer for it to come home to roost with us. But, yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to get too dark on this, but I mean, I feel like it's like I see the same problem. I mean, I think you see it without history. How do you stop people who want to destroy everything like that? You're trying to make it. We're not talking like honest disagreements. We're talking because like with the Flint thing, there were people saying you do this. Even though there are a lot like water and environmental experts saying you can't do this or else it's gonna be a severe health risk. And even the people of Flint knew the water of the Flint River was severely polluted. They didn't want to drink that. So it's like you had all these, your system had all these checks in place to stop that from happening, yet they just went right forward through it. So I guess if you wanted to, yeah, I'm CIA, you can't stop me, Russ. I guess, well, I don't think that was CIA involvement, but CIA is more, well, they've done a lot of bad stuff too. But I guess, okay, I guess if I was gonna, okay, if I was rebuilding society, like on a small scale, it would probably just be like pioneer town mentality. It's just like, okay, we need to make sure we have this many food stores. We need a clean water source. We need to figure out where we're gonna construct new buildings, that sort of thing. And that's just, your ideology doesn't matter too much as long as you prioritize the right things, on that scale. Once you get to a larger scale, I think this will again, I'm talking fantasy here. If I had to come up with something like, okay, I'm supreme dictator, I get to come up with a new system so that people after me will follow this, or I step down, somebody else. I think we should use, I think I almost see the human race as like a robust species that has like no immune system. Like it can't detect threats. Oh no, we're great at external threats, but horrendous at internal long-term threats. So I think we would need, for any leader of any system, we would have to have ways of determining if they're telling the truth on important matters. And we'd have to use technology. We'd have to use like MRI scans and hope they aren't some weird psychopath that they can, or they're not deluded. Like, so if you can ask them point blank, like, do you realize this will poison residents? And so they say like, or say, no, I do not believe this will poison residents. But see, even that's tricky, because if they're deluded and actually believe that, then that still slips through. But in this case, I'm pretty sure he did not believe that. He just did not care. It's just like, well, if it's just like, I do not believe this will poison residents, and then it shows up in the very instant, oh, look, he's lying. Well, then this person can't be qualified to be a leader. Now, it doesn't mean that like you're probably not gonna find a leader who's like 100% honest and everything, but for things that really matter, maybe have a system where at any given time, the citizenry above a critical mass can force their leader to answer these questions. And if they answer it not to their liking, they can throw them out immediately. But I don't know, it might get more chaotic. Because there's so many things, like with the Wall Street bets thing. Another thought I had is, in the past year or year and a half, how many like accusations, or maybe not formal legal ones, or just suspicious activity that have pointed to Congress, people in Congress doing insider trading? In other words, they knew some change was coming, so they sold all their stock in one area, or they bought the stock. This has been happening in like both parties. I want to say it's at least half a dozen. It might be at least a dozen, like cases that I've even heard about, where like, yeah, this totally sounds like it's insider trading. So it's like corruption's so rampant that there's more than one way to get to a functioning society, but corruption can kind of eat all of them. So I don't know. That's the riddle of the ages. It's like, how do you stop corrupt people who, again, we're not talking like differences of opinion or people arguing. See, the perfect version of like democracy would be people arguing about the best way to achieve like a goal we need, or solutions to problems. Where, like I always come up with an example, like, let's say you're a small town, and like, I'm thinking like a fantasy setting or something, medieval fantasy, and an invading force is coming. They're like a few days out, and you think they're going to ransack the place. And imagine there's a disagreement where some people think, no, we need to build a wall around the town, like a palisade, and make it more defensible. And other people are saying, no, it's not worth it. We need to, what we need to do is just really build up our militia, start making weapons, and they're arguing about like which one's more important, where should voter resources. And I feel like that those two groups, like that's a healthy disagreement, but they're in like the smallest minority, and the vast majority of the town folk are focused on building a giant wicker statue in the middle of town, and all the disagreement is on which way the wicker statue should be facing. Should be the north or the south, and like, and they're just like not, they don't even care about like the invading force coming until they finally show up. So I kind of feel like that's how politics is. So, but yeah, if I wouldn't say it's 100%, but if you want to read up stuff on the Venus Project, when I read that, I was like, oh yeah, I agree with like 95% of this. So that's my politics. I know it's fantasy, and I feel just kind of untethered. And I kind of wish we could kind of get really bare minimum standards. And like with me being motivated on like the games as a service thing, I'll probably repeat this, but I realized in our bread and circuses existence, I kind of want to make sure the circus survives. So that's kind of my motivation on that. I appreciate escapism. So yeah, you can. My politics are utilitarian / utopian, and I know it's fantasy. So, and it just kind of shuts me down from a lot of other larger issues. So, because my standards are so diminished that it's like, it's not that it doesn't matter, but it's so hard to build morale around like a lot more fringe issues that don't address their biggest problems. You know what I mean? Okay, I gotta get to a few more questions. I'll take, I'm going about 2 hours. I'll get a few more questions, then take live ones. Or I'll start picking and choosing now. Someone's mentioning Prime Hack for the Dolphin emulator. Apparently you can use a mouse for aiming, and so cool. I guess I haven't heard of that, but I guess I'll get to that eventually. I want to play Metroid Prime games eventually. So, okay, next question. Will you be willing to show your Windows 10 setup once you finally got more comfortable with the OS? Yeah. In fact, I'll probably show it on the... I originally wasn't planning to, but I think I will do a follow-up to the GUI video. I'll for sure show it then. Right now, it looks pretty similar. I'm trying to get... Some of the stuff I'm finding is cosmetic, and some of the stuff is functional, but though the functional stuff I'm for sure going to need more help on. I actually... Okay, I guess to spoil it a bit, for the GUI video, since I've had more time to think on it, I've had a couple more ideas. Some are a little more out there. One of them, I think, is a more conservative idea for it, and I'm honestly not seeing a downside. Like, I feel like, no, this would make sense for just about everyone, I think, because it would be pretty customizable and would work with a lot of workflows, and I think would speed things up. This would tie in for like sort of a start menu, taskbar, system tray, and just general shortcuts replacement. And I think once you see it, you realize, wow, this is kind of simple. Why don't we have anything like this? Because this could make a lot of sense. So, but like this is what I would have done if I was in charge of changing things around for Windows 8 when they wanted to make big changes. So, So yeah, I'm not going to have that on my system without help. It may not even be possible, but yeah, I'm having some more thoughts. So you'll kind of get like a bonus edition that's hopefully a little more thought out than the original. Man, the first one I wasn't sure where to start or exactly where I wanted to take every thought, but I'm glad it came out as coherent as it did. So yeah, for sure. Right now, Windows 10, it's like, it's definitely quirkier than Windows 7. I'm sorry, like anyone who says otherwise, they just have a different workflow than I do, or they're using different and some of my stuff is a little more customized, so I understand if most people aren't running into the same issues I am. But other things like okay, to give you an example of some of the quirks, like I sideload stuff on my tablet from time to time. I'll put like articles I want to read or books, ebooks on there, and I hooked that up to the USB. That worked 100% of the time on Windows 7. That works about 20 to 30% of the time on Windows 10. I'll plug it in, absolutely nothing happens. It detects it on the tablet. It says like, oh yeah, do you want to enable USB sharing? Yes. Nothing. Like the system detects nothing. I found there's a correlation though with how long I've had the computer on. Like if I've just turned it on, the odds of it working are higher. But this isn't like, I have no idea why. And we've gone from like 100% reliability to like 20%. If I just, most of the times it doesn't work. Another one, now this one does work most of the time, my mouse. 90% of the time when I turn the computer on, it works fine. 10% of the time, it's like, it's weird. At first, it looks like the cursor has gone invisible. But I can still like move, like I can right click on a menu and then I see like the sub menu come up and then it sort of halfway freezes. Like it's not clear. And I found the only solution was just to unplug it and plug it back in again and then the mouse works. So this is quirky. I mean, this never really happened for me on Windows 7. I'm trying to think of some other ones. There's more. Oh yeah, like, well, this one's part of me. This was more like a WinStep thing, WinStep Nexus thing, which I'm using to replace some functions. Like I'm having, I never considered that things were a little quirky for me with my custom UI on Lightstep. I never thought they would be quirkier on Windows 10 with less customization. But they are. Like I'm having to, like I have it set to a hotkey now to restart Explorer.exe because it quirks out so reliably for me for some programs. Like whenever I use VR, once I'm done and turn it off, like it doesn't. Well, I think I'm repeating some of the other quirks I've had. Like in some games, like the taskbar, like the bottom edge likes to appear through after like a random amount of time. Not all games, but some of them. And it's like, I don't know how to get rid of it sometimes. Sometimes I can just Alt-Tab and come back in and it's gone. Other times, no, it's staying there. So. Do you still get occasional errors with Control-C-V? Oh yeah. Like it's like it never happened. It's like the Control-C portion never happened. However, I need to catch up. I asked for help on Twitter on that, and somebody recommended a clipboard alternative. I need to test that out, see how it goes. So yeah, it's for sure quirkier. But however, at least the November 2020 version of Windows 10, because that's when I updated it, it is stable on my particular system because, boy, I was using it around the clock for those videos for the December video, the Christmas stuff, and later the Dream software, and it never crashed. So, yeah, it has. I don't think it's hard crashed on me. So that version is stable when there's a new update. However, there was an update in December that caused blue screens for a lot of people. So it's like, Windows 10 is in perpetual beta because you can never be a finalized release if you're always making changes and some of them are unstable. You gotta have like long-term, I mean, I guess you could argue the LTSC version is like, it isn't beta, but. What made you finally take the dive into Windows 10? I hate when I switch it, but VR support. Yeah, it was VR mostly. And plus, I was noticing like a couple programs that weren't running. Plus, I eventually want to play like the PC Forza Horizon games. Those are Windows 10 exclusive ones. Uh, I didn't care too much about DirectX 12, but maybe in the future I'll need. Jeez, I'm trying to remember. There was like one or two programs I needed it for, but now I can't remember what. I don't know. But yeah, the VR was definitely a big point for it. I still need to do more with VR. I haven't. I was just. I was a little game starved at the time. I was just kind of playing conventional games. So when I did my sort of staycation thing. Okay. So he's saying Freddie Mercury said to his manager before he died, "You can do whatever you want with my image, music, remix it, re-release it, whatever. Just never make me boring." Are you under the same opinion of your image and content after you pass? No. After I pass, I don't care. You can do anything with my stuff if I'm dead. I don't like. I'm thinking, like, have you ever seen The Fugitive? There's a scene where Tommy Lee where he's saying to Tommy Lee Jones, "I'm innocent." He's like, "I don't care. If I'm dead, I don't care." So don't worry about that. I guess while I'm alive, just I have a pretty liberal fair use interpretation. So, if it's like even remotely transformative, or like a review that sort of, or you just want to use it as like illustrative or example, sure, go ahead. Or so that's yeah, very liberal fair use interpretation is how I feel about it while I'm alive. So how's the Linux adventure going? That's coming up later. That's coming up later. Yeah, so this one's asking if they think trust busting is still possible. So many politicians and public figures are in bed for mega corporations. Yeah, probably not. I mean, it's kind of like what I mentioned before. I thought I remember there was like an antitrust probe opened up on Google, but I don't know if that went anywhere or if it will. I haven't followed the details on that. Okay, I could be wrong here, but I've heard like a lot of the laws for trust busting and like anti-monopolistic practices are still on the books. Like pretty much the president or any of the past presidents, like at any time could have just decided, no, we're going old school with our enforcement style, and just they could have cracked down on like any major company they wanted to because, oh, look at this, you have double-digit shares of the market. I bet we need to see if you're a threat to fair play and the free market here. And look, okay, I could be mistaken, but this is something where it would not take like a new law under Congress. Again, feel free to fact check. But like, let's say we got a president who just wanted like, no, forget it, I'm old school. Like, no monopoly is a good monopoly, and just wanted to crack down on everything. They could go nuts. I mean, it would probably crash the economy due to how much control we have over that, and how much influence they have over it. But I think we can do that anytime we want to. It's just that the mentality of the presidency for like what, the past, half a century or something, has been just, no, we're not going to take such a hardline approach on that. So, I mean, even with Microsoft, I think that was like the last like big one we had. And that was over Internet Explorer being like the default option for browsing the internet, sort of giving them an unfair advantage over Netscape Navigator at the time. Or compare that to what we're doing now with Windows 10. It's like, okay, if you are connected to the internet when you install Windows 10, then I believe it requires a Microsoft login from you. Like, you can't do like an offline install if it detects an internet connection. So, okay, you have to you have to sign up now, and they have the Windows 10, the Windows Store embedded into the OS. So I think that would be an unfair advantage if you were like really concerned about free market stuff. And what the geez, the telemetry, like it, when the, it's, I don't even know how many different ways Windows 10 dials out. Like, let's say you're real concerned about your privacy. Okay, well, you know, and that you think this is, or hey, if you're arguing this from an antitrust perspective, let's say, oh, you think this gives Microsoft an unfair advantage over other software manufacturers having access to all this data. So for the market, so yeah, dude, it's like what they went to court on in the 90s or the early 2000s is like a joke compared. So it's only more entrenched and encroached. Yeah, I realized a metaphor I was thinking of, but again, if you just were to go after them all at once, I could see that crashing the economy. Or with the, well, man, it's too bad my voice was dying early. It really was dying, and now it's back. Uh, with the Wall Street bets things, like, okay, like let's say we went like full free market and then like it crashed and brought down the economy. So they're saying, oh, well, we can't do that. But then the effect of that is like the little guy gets shut out even more, because if they were to actually have an advantage, then the system's so unstable that would crash things. So it's like, what this reminds me of is an Alien. You know how the face hugger has the guy and they try to remove it from him, and then you see it like, you see it like tightening its grip around its neck, as in, you know, no, we're gonna kill this host if you try to remove it. So it's like, okay, well, I guess we better back off. I feel so much of like, well, I guess how society runs today feels like that. It's like, no, you better not remove it or else we're gonna crash things, like, you know, with the stock market and large corporations. It's so, it's, yeah, I think that's a good metaphor. Whereas in the long term, if you just leave it on there, that's going to create a different set of problems. So, oh, somebody's asking, I'll make a civil protection video with the tacos thing. I can maybe do that eventually. I'll say this: civil protection is done on the source engine, all right? Unless there was someone just taking all the work from it. But I mean, I wouldn't want to put that on someone, because it wouldn't earn they'd be earning pennies for like what it would make on YouTube versus the amount of work it takes. However, what I could do later on is maybe port the assets over to something like Unreal and then continue it that way. But so yeah, the movie's coming first, I'm afraid. Okay, so any games out there that you're interested in that are taking a surprisingly long time to go on sale for sandwich prices? For the most part, no. It seems like everything crashes down that I'm interested in. However, there was one I finally caved on. This is one I played, was Blizzard games. They only ever go solo. I finally caved and got was it Reaper of Souls expansion for Diablo 3, and I played through that. What I realized it probably wasn't going to go much lower because Blizzard stopped selling it as a standalone thing, so you could only get it through like third-party key resellers. So I figured, that's a sign this is probably not gonna. They only sell it bundled now, so yeah, Blizzard ones, they just don't. They don't. They only go solo. But I'm not dying to really play a bunch of Blizzard games right now, anyway. I guess Activision might be the same too. I'm not sure. I haven't really been super interested in a bunch of Activision games lately. I'm not. I did end up playing. This is actually a few months back. Was it Call of Duty Advanced Warfare? That was the first Call of Duty I played through, because I was less interested in the contemporary setting, but I like the more sci-fi element of it, and I feel like I gotta amp. Yeah, that's the original pay F. Yeah, press F to pay respects game. That's where that one came from. Uh, I can see the appeal of it for people. It's very. That one might even get a game dungeon. Like I understand the Call of Duty. It's like I feel like Call of Duty. Well, I only played the single player, but from what I saw of it, if you're just working all day, working all the time, you just don't have a lot of time to game, and you just want a lot of. If you just want to see a lot of spectacle for your time, then that's a pretty good choice because it's like it just like it gets almost a parody, like how over the top it was, which I appreciate. So I like that. But I feel like if you play a lot of games, you can maybe do better. So. But again, I wasn't doing the multiplayer. I know the multiplayer's different completely. But yeah, I could see if you only had like a little bit of time to play a game and you just want, yeah, you just want a lot. Okay, I'm repeating myself, but it's very much dumb fun. That's how I would rank it. It's very much dumb fun. So. Yeah, there's a lot of parody potential in there, I think. I'll probably eventually play the Infinite Warfare one, but yeah, everything else I'm interested in. It's either gone down super cheap and I grabbed it, or else it could go wait a few more years and then it'll really be ripe for buying. You know. Well, yeah, like 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 I still want to play Cloudpunk and Generation Zero. Those are two I'm interested in, but those are still relatively fresh. I'll wait a few years. You know, then they'll get cheaper, I think. Would you make the move to another location, say another country, a more rural environment, if you had all your daily needs fulfilled? Yeah, I mean, I could consider it. I'm pretty open-minded, that sort of thing. I do kind of miss forest. Well, I have forest here, so I probably want some place with woodland somewhere. So that kind of limits regions. But you know, I mean, it depends how desperate a move it was too. You know, if it was, you know, cost of living. I mean, I'll adapt. You know. Are you a fan of David Lynch movies? If so, which ones and why? Uh, I haven't seen a whole bunch. David Lynch tends to get a little weird for me. You know, I mean, I'm actually not seeking maximum weirdness. I mean, that said, I generally I liked Twin Peaks a lot because it sort of had an anchoring in reality. So I like surreal stuff more, where you know there's some reality, but you drift off. You know, I like that style more. But I've seen Mulholland Drive and I've seen Eraserhead. Mulholland Drive, I was just kind of lost, but it's been a long time since I've seen that. Eraserhead was just kind of like, let's just go for let's just go for really intense weirdness. Believe it or not, that's actually not what I'm seeking out in life. So I like having some grounding in reality. Okay. Yeah, I'll try. Somebody's mentioning VR chat. I probably should have mentioned that in the video. Well, I'll answer this one quick. What are some of the half-baked ideas presented by Valve would you like to see them follow through on? Just go hardcore Linux gaming. I mean, some people argue they have already, but like, I think it's only like a third of Steam games are officially supported. No, do more. Do more. It's not that I'm in love with Linux. It's that I want an escape route from Windows. You know, and look at the state of Linux gaming before and after Valve got involved. And I think it might be the single biggest shot in the arm to Linux gaming there's ever been. I mean, I'm not sure on the complete history on that. I could be wrong, but it's been pretty dramatic. So, yeah, somebody says can't support that enough. Just keep pushing. Keep pushing. Like, they have a lot of money. Just maybe try and even get some deal. Hey, have like a, I mean, hey, go the Epic route. Maybe have a game that's like timed exclusive on Linux. It wouldn't even have to be that long. Have a month. Have a game that's meant to that comes out on Linux first for like a month. That'd be unheard. That would not make business sense right now. But Valve can afford to do something like that. Just keep pushing it. Push it so hard. Like maybe give like a bonus percentage of share profits if the developer is supporting Linux or something like that, you know? Again, it's not that I'm in love with Linux. I can see where Windows wants to take things and it gets pretty ugly. So with Linux, they can't really take it back once you have it working, you know? So, I mean, as long as the software doesn't depend on a central server, they can't really take it away from you. Whereas Windows is certainly trying. I mean, but I mean, I'd see that as like them doing like the most good for gaming, I think, because it sounds like fantasy and it probably is, but I could see if they just went at it just hard. I mean, yeah, look at how hard Epic went in trying to get a foothold in the gaming. You know, if they went at that level of effort, then imagine like in 5-10 years that it's kind of a given that if you're a PC gamer, you kind of have a Linux install, you know, and then there's like a distro tuned for that. So, I mean, they've made a lot of progress, but well, I intend to explore this topic in depth later on. Hopefully this year. That's one of the videos I want to get going. Let's see. Okay, well, I'll answer more questions in a minute. I've been saying that probably for like 20 minutes now. Okay, got another government question. What is your favorite series to produce? When they mentioned several, they mentioned Game Dungeon, Freeman's Mind, fan chats, random videos. Well, it's actually none of the above. I'd like to go back to stuff more like Civil Protection or, I mean, it wouldn't have to be Half-Life related, but, you know, sort of like, or the Stranger in Need stuff. However, I really do hate animating. So, I know, I'd like to be able to do something more original, but that's what I'll be doing with the movies, so. After that, though, probably Game Dungeon would be my favorite out of all those. When there's not much time pressure. You know? Okay, somebody's asking which game took me the longest to finish. I don't know. Oh, not necessarily because of game length or difficulty, because when I started. Oh, well, Veil of Darkness got delayed a year. But, he's saying excluding Veil of Darkness. Well, I guess the Battleforge. That because I recorded the footage way ahead of time. So, whoops, I lost my place, but that's okay. I can do a search. Okay. Oh, here it is. Okay, I'm going to skip some more for time. Sorry about that. I'm just going to go if there's any that jump out at me that I feel like are good ones to answer. Okay, yeah, well, I'll clarify this. Yeah, the storming of the Capitol last month, that wasn't what I had in mind. See, I thought our biggest problem would be, well, one, I didn't actually have all the information. One, apparently, I thought our biggest problem would be mass evictions or just people not having enough money for food. That sort of, I feel like, my mentality is that's the priority. That's what should take priority over everything. So my thought was that if you had a gigantic shantytown, then Congress really can't ignore this. I mean, well, okay, maybe they can, but at least the rest of the world will be seeing, wow, this is pretty bad. And maybe there'd be like pressure would kind of trickle down so that Congress would realize they would have to do something. What I didn't realize was apparently there's eviction moratorium and like the latest bill. So maybe people aren't getting thrown out. I've heard there's a lot of loopholes on that stuff. But even then, I think that only lasts until next month. So I feel like our approaches were just sort of kicking the can down the road a couple months at a time for a real crisis that needs like massive response. But okay, well, but yeah, no, what happened, the best way I can characterize it is I think it's like what I said before, how you're going to, the more we don't solve problems, the more you're going to see just incidents spill over in ways we might not have been anticipating. You know, like with the George Floyd protest, that was a real powder. We basically created the powder keg, and that was a spark that ignited one of them. And then I think it was much smaller, but before that there was like the anti-lockdown protest, or I feel like this is another way where there's a lot of tension building that whatever random causes people will get on board, that could get a way more energy and fuel for it because there's already so much tension because things are really precarious for a lot of people economically, where you're not sure where you're going to live in the future, or you know someone likes that, or you're not sure if your job's going to exist, or, you know, and we're not getting answers. And so that's really not good for society. So who knows how that spills over. And that doesn't mean that the people participating in that are necessarily in that situation, but they're sure feeling a lot more radicalized because things are so tense and we're not seeing a lot of stability. So it's not good. Okay, so let's see. But yeah, that wasn't what I had in mind at all. I thought that's like, hey, maybe we should force our representatives to represent us on things that are super essential for people to live. That was kind of my attitude, but that's not where things seem to be going. Okay, somebody's asking, how much of me is represented from Mike and Dave? Much more than Freeman. I almost feel like Mike and Dave are like different aspects of my own personality to a degree. Though they're kind of turning into their own thing, but it's like I can be more like Mike in some situations, more like Dave in others. You know, that sort of thing. Let's see. Okay, this is a long. Okay, so apparently there's a YouTuber. I don't know who this is. Noah Caldwell Jervis. Apparently said something and his fans got upset, and he's took revenge on, or they pulled out from support. Yeah, I don't really know the details on this. Let's see. Okay, so in what context do you stop functioning as a curse farms if the circumstances change enough among you supporters? Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's, put it like this. I'd much rather, I will take my chances with everyone dropping support for me from my audience over any company I can think of any day. Like, I mean, with like YouTube or Machinima. Oh yeah, that was the other thing I meant to mention. Backing up a lot. When I was saying, I assume, I don't know who's telling the truth or not with all this stock worker stuff, or they're telling the truth about one situation, but that doesn't apply to this one. The thing is, I've seen this happen with Machinima. I've been on the end of it, where I stated what was happening, and I saw some guy try to fact check me. And the thing was, some of the stuff I was repeating as the explanation Machinima gave me, and that was, so I was taking them at their word. So if that was true, okay, then Machinima was lying to me. Other things, this guy was saying what I'm saying isn't accurate. No, it was 100% accurate. It's almost like people couldn't assume that what they were doing was so off because like, oh, that would violate laws if they were doing that. Like, it's like so yeah, I was thinking with like the margin calls for the selling their trades. Hey, maybe that is all that's happened. Okay, I can totally accept that. Or maybe somebody really did just straight up buy their shares and they got sold anyway. They got caught in the system. Or so who knows? You know, however, so you this stuff can get really muddy. I've seen, but yeah, I've seen someone come in, like it was on Reddit, I think. They just definitively said that like, this is true, this wasn't, about what I was saying was, I knew for a fact what my contract said. Like, so it's like, I knew 100% they were wrong in this point. And these other points, well, that is literally what Machinima told me. So, okay, I side. So yeah, look, I will take my chances with you guys any day of the week. Because I figure, you know, if you all bailed on me, maybe I had it coming, you know? I mean, I'm not sure what I would do for that to happen, but, well, okay, yeah, I did have a thought, though. This is giving me a thought. If I just, we'll see if I ever get around to it, but I would, part of me wants to make it. One of the Machinima series ideas I have is I kind of would want to make one set based on Postal, you know, set in that world. I was almost thinking of like something in between 1 and 2. And if I were to do that, I could see getting into some trouble for that. So, because I'm a fan of dark comedy, and it would be comedy, but the shock value I could see being like a little too much for some viewers. That I could maybe just throw a bunch of warnings on it, like don't watch this if you're sensitive or easily, just, you know. So no, I wouldn't be doing the Postal Dude. Actually, I know somebody who it's funny. Normally he doesn't really sound like the Postal Dude, but I was thinking, let's try messing with this. And I dropped the pitch on his voice at editing, and I was just like, whoa, he started sounding pretty close then. So I might even, or I could have auditions for other people to try and get the Postal Dude. But yeah, I could see getting into some trouble on that. But it's because I feel like Postal 1 was almost like a little too dark, and Postal 2 just gets zany. Like, I was thinking I was thinking something along the lines of more like something like in between the two, like kind of like if you've seen the movie Falling Down, kind of like that with more comedy, but more I guess more what's the word I'm looking for? Well, I guess violence. I mean, I don't know, just but more intense. A more intense version of Falling Down with more comedy is kind of how I would look at it. So but that would take a lot of work with like animation and sets, and that's not like my top shelf ideas. But I could see if I did that, that one might eventually still happen. But that one's way off, unfortunately, unless I was just grinding it out with animation somehow, with motion capture, and I had the pipeline set up and stuff. But I could see getting into some trouble for that, because it's like what I mentioned earlier with Rob Zombie. You know, stuff that's going to make somebody burst out laughing is going to leave somebody else horrified. So let's see. Yeah, but because Postal 2 really had some. Well, again, Postal 2 got a little too silly for me, and so I would kind of keep it a little bit grounded, but or a little bit different direction. But yeah, I mean, I'm trying to remember the parts that really got me to crack up. Well, like when you're going on killing sprees, he's just like he starts saying like there's one, there's another, and there's one to grow on. It's like. And then, like, there's one for the Pope, and then, like, he just keeps, and he's just basically, I mean, you're just going on a shooting spree as he's doing this. So it's very dark humor. It would not be meant maliciously, in a malicious way, but no, I guess there's a risk of that, but look, I've been doing these video chats for years. You probably have a reasonably good idea. Well, hey, we already saw this at the beginning. Somebody was pretty upset at me for, I really don't know what I said where they thought I was supporting racism. Like, I can't even, what probably happened was I said something that could be misconstrued that way. Of course I don't support racism, but I've apparently lost somebody already on that for who knows what. So I've been doing this for years, so you have a pretty good idea of what I'm like. I did the Phantasmagoria 2 episode. I really wanted to cover that one, and that one has plenty of shocking content in it, and people are still watching the videos. So. I am fine with putting warnings on stuff, though. So, I don't want to, I don't want people who can't handle it to see stuff that they shouldn't. But yeah, but 100% take your guys' support over like having to rely on a company, just because the company doesn't care. See, that's the thing. I feel like if there's a big problem, you guys, that's part of what these video chats are, is if there's a major problem, that question get voted to the top or brought up in the chats. Okay, should answer more questions. So, I can get feedback here. Okay, I'm just skipping more questions. I do not have I have not watched Rose Island, and I know I don't have plans of finding a floating micronation in international waters. But, when BioShock came out, I thought it was like a little ridiculous, but now, apparently it was closer to reality than we thought. Like the political motivations for that sort of thing. Like I thought it was just kind of ludicrous, but I guess not. Okay, sorry, I'm skipping more because this went on so long. Oh, this was a good one. They're saying in your Dream software, yes, the developers were aware of how much influence its users. Yeah, how much influence has on its users. And he linked to a video by Tom Scott, which I only recently learned about. I'm assuming no relation. So, and in the video, I hadn't seen that video, but I watched it when I saw this question. Apparently, he loved Need for Speed 2, and it was even in the shareware copy. So he was like infinitely familiar with this one track, and it was based on Vancouver. So he went on a trip to try to see it, to see the locations that it was inspired off of. Yeah, I think that's awesome. Yeah, and like I can see. I guess the difference is like most of the places I want to see, it's like they may not be based on reality, or like the reality be too awkward to go there, or too expensive, or because you gotta pay for fuel, or it might be on private property. Whereas I'm pretty happy seeing the game world itself. So apparently I'm not the only person who thinks like that. Yeah, I should have saw one comment I liked where somebody, they felt vindicated when I made the Dream Software video because they had been thinking that forever, but didn't really have a voice on it. So I felt good about that. But yeah, this is one of the reasons games should be not destroyed, because lots of people really appreciate them, Okay, I should mention this one too. Geez. 40 minutes later, 1 minute. Apparently Battleborn servers went down, and apparently one of the developers on it was crushed. So I don't know what his role was. I didn't have time to research it. My guess is he probably wasn't a coder. It might have been like more in the art department, because maybe you have less familiarity with how it works, like the game. But either way, it shows that everybody hates this. This is like a terrible practice. So because yeah, if you work, I mean, how many games that somebody put, their soul into, let's say it was decades ago or something. Well, the game might still be great. It just might be limited by the technology at the time. Could still be something they want to show off to people, or have some pride in, or people still appreciate it. Uh, so it's what? It's an awful practice. So yeah, this shows that's kind of proof it affects at least some of the developers. So yeah, I'm hoping I can make progress on this. I'm gonna try everything I can. And if I can't, I guess the Dream Software is the consolation prize. But if that happens, so that's what bothered me about this. So I want to say even from like late 90s, early 2000s, I realized this was a potential problem. It's just that I sort of put it in the back of my mind because it was like, well, it was with MMOs and those cost money each month. I'm never going to be able to afford to play those anyway. So, but then it just spread, So now and I always saw it as like a real threat. So there's no good reason for it. That's the takeaway from it. Okay. Are there any games you'd love to play, but there's just one or two things about the game that turns you off from trying them? Yeah, that can happen a lot. Well, turn-based combat. I mean, I think I mentioned before, like the BattleTech game looks like something I'd love, but I really don't like turn-based combat. A lot of space sims can be like that. I love the atmosphere and the theme and the story, but man, I'm not a great pilot, and some of those get really complex, like especially like the old school ones. They'll have like manuals this thick on like how to handle the plane, the space flyer. A lot of 4X games, the learning curve can be a bit much for me. Though those are ones I kind of, some of those I want to get to more eventually. Let's see, or for little things. Sometimes the palette just I hate it, like, or the tinting of the screen that can really increase my distaste for games. So. Do you own and play with Rubik's cubes and other similar puzzles? No. I guess I had one as a kid. I was never particularly adept at it. Well, actually, as a kid, I remember. Geez, maybe somebody knows the name of these things. I got these as a present. I really love these things. They were like these little puzzle. Geez, how do you describe? Okay, they're like made out of foam rubber, and they had like little edges, and they could interlock into. It was like a bit of a puzzle, and you could kind of form these cube shapes with them, or longer things, like reconstruct them. It was almost like hinge-based Legos that were pretty cool. I haven't had those since I was a kid, though. I guess I don't have too much like that. I mean, I'm spoiled for entertainment choices now with the computer and games and movies and stuff. I guess I wouldn't mind something kind of. I've always had this, like, where, like, I'll sometimes just want to fiddle with things. Yeah, just with my hands sometimes if I'm focusing on something. Or what are those called? The spinners don't really have much appeal to me. I don't know. I would do this so much in class, just kind of indefinitely. I never got good at I was always a little jealous of the people who could do the one where you could, if I can hold this in front of, they would just have the pen go around their thumb like that. I would try to do that. I can never do it reliably, but I could just do this one forever. Let's see. Sorry, these questions are kind of farther down. I'm just skipping. I'm just skipping more and more because the time's going on. Let's see. Well, this is a weird one. Oh, okay. Is there any intellectual? Oh, that's kind of like what I just answered earlier. Yeah, yeah. Space games probably have the biggest ratio of games I really want to. I'm really interested. I want to play it, but man, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to hack it with the gameplay. Although maybe you know, I think the thing it is about flight games, it might be just like, especially with space, it might be just me lack of having a grounding perspective. Because one of the games I've been playing lately is Aquanox, and I'm fine with that. But the thing is, that's like an underwater game. It's kind of like a space piloting game, but I have constant perspective of like the landscape and the horizon. And I was thinking, I enjoyed the terminal velocity game too, and that one you also have like a constant view of the planet, and you're getting kind of low down to the ground and that sort of thing. So it's where space, it's like I just get disoriented quickly, and then it's just not. I can play them, but it's like not as fun for me. Just sort of chasing around where the dogfighting targets are, that sort of thing. Okay. Oh yeah, this question is interesting. Do you think that the Masquerade and Vampire the Masquerade would have been broken by now in the modern age, where everyone has a high quality recording device in their pocket? It's not like they can kill every single person. What if someone is streaming an Nosferatu? How does someone cover that up? Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure the CIA has done stuff like this. What you'd have to do is you increase the noise to signal ratio, where you just flood it with fake vampire things. So everybody thinks. So it's like with zombies. So everybody takes vampire. If Vampire the Masquerade is real, everybody takes it as real as zombie. It's like, yeah, a zombie, how funny, ha. And just flood it with like hundreds or thousands of cases of like fake vampire stuff. So when the real stuff emerges, it just gets lost in the noise. And then, yeah, for sure, you'd have Ventru at like major media companies, where if anything particularly spicy got through, they could kind of do like a crackdown operation on that, and contacts who were involved. I think it could still be achievable. I mean, you wouldn't have 100%. You wouldn't have 100% blockage, but you wouldn't need to. Because it's like, okay, somebody gets genuine photography of a vampire and it has 43 views on YouTube. Okay, not really a problem, So it's you just have to change. It would be more difficult, but yeah, you'd have to change your tactics. I'm pretty sure the CIA has done stuff like this, where you just discredit it through just all the wacky garbage information, so that the signal gets lost in the noise. Let's see. Okay, checking a few more. Do you think you'll have as much of a hard time getting games of today to work in 20 years as you do old games now? Or do you think games of today will be easier to get working going forward? I think there's arguments on both sides, because on one hand, things are getting a little more standardized now, so that'll help with compatibility. And they're omitting online only games for the sake, so obviously that's a death blow. But on the other hand, games today require a lot more processing power. They're much more complex. So even like with old emulators, it's like sometimes we just brute force it. Even if we didn't have the documentation, because computers got so much faster. But you might. And, I almost brought this up in the Sin episode. Pen caught my hair. With, this is one of the lines I omitted for time, is, how I renamed the game to Quake 2 and then it worked? Well, that's because they probably programmed in these special non-standardized workarounds for Quake 2 specifically, so that it could work, because that's a very popular game, into the drivers. And look, for NVIDIA, AMD, they're loaded with probably thousands of these game profiles of just non-standard code to usually for optimizations. But if you're going back trying to get that working, that can work against you because it's like once you start doing things in a non-standardized way, it's like, well, then there might not have been any documentation of what they were doing. And if the game's depending on that in these drivers, then you're creating problems. Like I remember a while back, I think it was Duke Nukem Forever. I tried it and it blue screened on me. And I was thinking, oh, well then I updated the drivers and then it worked. Well, I was thinking, wait a minute. If we were just completely adherent to standards, shouldn't the game run and then just not perform as well because it doesn't have these optimizations? But we're actually having the bug fixes themselves inside the drivers. To me, that says they're calling on stuff that's like not a standard part of like DirectX 9, I think at the time. Or, we're adding some special sauce that's relying on something inside either AMD or NVIDIA drivers, and that could really blow up on us in the future down the line. But I don't know. I'm skeptical, actually. I think it might even get worse. But okay, let's see. Stadia is shutting down their internal studios. I did not know that. Is this cause for celebration? Absolutely. I mean, it may not be much of it. It may not change the course things are going, but good. It'll have a chilling effect. Buy some more time. I still don't like how Amazon keeps saying how they want to make games, and of course theirs are going to be online only. I don't have a problem with them making games. I have the problem with just making games that will die the second they're not connected to Amazon, I'm skipping some more stuff. Let's see. Okay, I'll address this. Will the nearly perpetual screaming Freeman be reined in later? Yeah, I hope so. I mean, it's kind of dependent on the game. I mean, where it is. See, Half-Life 2 got more gamey than Half-Life 1, where I feel like it was a little better paced for my taste. God, that helicopter section, that was like one of the worst in like the whole game because it just kept coming at you. The thing is, I'm trying to treat it like it's real for Freeman, and like a helicopter that just won't go away, that's shadowing you, shooting at you with a machine gun, that's just a complete nightmare. And it just keeps going on. So, good news, I think there's going to be a calm you played Half-Life 2, so you know it's coming. Freeman's going to be able to calm down. I mean, there's like the boss fight, and then like you have Black Mesa East, and then Ravenholm, and that's all calmer. Like, but but he was just getting shot at nonstop. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's like I'm kind of dug my own grave because on one hand, if I'm not shouting as much, well, then I'm downplaying the seriousness of the threat. So it's like, well, it kind of takes you out of it. But if I'm shouting constantly, it's like, well, and I'm shouting constantly. I can understand why people aren't thrilled to be listening to that. So I'm hoping I think the pacing gets better. Like, my memory's fuzzy on it, but I think there's some intense parts in like the City 17 return, but I think there's a little more pacing on like having some downtime in between like the shooting and everything because well, somebody's saying Ravenholm is calm. Well, Ravenholm you can take slowly, it can make sense to take slowly. Well, besides, I don't know 100% what I'm going to do. I haven't played ahead yet to that point, but I have a general idea. But okay, so yeah. So yeah, I'm aware of that, but I just that part's unmerciful in the game, and it's more like a game, where this never-ending helicopter shooting at you with a machine gun. Okay, uh, skipping more questions, just seeing if there's any that really jump out at me. My stomach's growling. I've noticed a lot of recent game dungeons are games that you don't really like. I like Sin. I mean, it's a mixed bag. When for the parts I don't hate, I really like that game. I like the gameplay a lot in Sin episodes. I mean, I felt like it needed to work, but no, Sin. It's like I'm sure everybody has this. It's a game you really like, but there are parts you really don't. It's like that. It's like that. So. Yeah, let's see. But what's and the Dream software, I was kind of I was wanting to make that a while just to sort of plant that idea in people. Hopefully steer the course a little bit from AI development towards that. So okay, I might skip this. So they're talking about like the new norm with people getting used to stuff being online only. Well, thankfully that developer wasn't used to it. I think, okay, it might be my imagination, but I think there is a little more awareness now that like we're creating games that can be destroyed. Yeah, by the way, push back against the narrative that you're leasing a game. I've been seeing people say that. Like, I was like, no, you're not. You're buying a perpetual license. If you are leasing a game, they would tell you exactly how long that lease lasts. You know, so it's like I don't know where that's coming from. I was seeing that emerge online a while ago, and like some comments, and I think I like a YouTube video. So no, that is somebody told that to I don't know who Razor Fist is. Still believes. Well, you're not. Look, I can understand. I can understand where effectively it seems like that, but even a lease, you're given a term. You're given a time block. See, companies don't want that. They don't want any of the responsibility, because if they say the game lasts until a certain length of time, well then people know it's going to last. That's going to be perceived as a lower value, so people are going to want to buy it, or they don't want to have to commit to that long if the game's a flop. So yeah, you are not leasing. You do not lease games. Show me the law that. Show me where in the contract it says that Yeah, what's the time duration? I didn't know you're allowed to have leases with no time duration specified. You know. Yeah. What's a lease in any other industry, in anything like real estate, that there is no there is no time expected time duration. Again, they want it both ways, and the law doesn't work like that. Well, it doesn't work like that on paper. It's just that if powerful forces don't want to address this issue, then it doesn't get addressed. That's kind of yeah. The law is actually not on their side with this. It's just that the law is on the side of of not wanting to look at this, like see no evil. That's where it is. So, in the United States, and that's why I said I think France might be ground zero for this stuff because they have much stronger consumer laws. You think there are any console exclusive games you would cover for Game Dungeon? Maybe. Actually, somebody recommended one that might actually make a good Christmas one. That I think it was a console exclusive. Okay, skipping more. Oh yeah. This was asking if they should wait 6 months on taking the vaccine before they turn to the zombie. No, I don't think you need to. I mean, I originally thought it might be good to wait a couple weeks because this is one of the fastest vaccines in history, is my understanding. So maybe there's some side effects that weren't accounted for that you might want to let people be the guinea pig for. But we're going to see a lot. Now I realize that's not even going to be an issue because the wait for the average person to get access to it is going to take so long that we're just going to have reams of data on this as to if there are any major side effects. So, I mean, I think you could. This sounds like a question for a doctor. You know, I'm not sure if there's been a case of like something where the side effects manifest themselves that much later from a medical procedure. You know, I mean, people understand vaccines, but like the details of this, the average person does not understand. In fact, The Onion had a great headline on this. Here, I want to read The Onion's headline here. Yeah, nation can't believe they spent so long overlooking obvious solution of mRNA instructions for spike protein encapsulated in lipid nanoparticle. So it was the answer all along. You know? Or lipid nano. I forget if it's lipid or lipid. I think it's lipid. So yeah, that says your average person's understanding of the virus. So I think the medical professional, we kind of have to just weigh in on what medical professionals say. Yeah, I mean but yeah, I think there's going to be at least I think there's going to be a safe enough guinea pig period between just people, you know, like medical professionals or the elderly getting it first, so that by the time I get access to it, then yeah, you know, it'll be kind of field battle tested. Someone's mentioning the hollow internet theory. I hadn't heard of that. They're saying that supposedly human created content on the web that we interact with is actually just bots, AI, and scripts. No, I think we're still pretty good at distinguishing the difference. That could become that'd be interesting. Somebody maybe has written a science fiction novel on that. I could see that becoming an issue in the future where the AI is so good at recognizing common pattern. Well, it's like the Turing test. You know, you can't tell if you're talking to a human or AI. I could actually see that become, again, that's not the same thing as being self-aware. It's just being so good at recognizing what people are likely to say in response to what you're saying that it would be hard to distinguish. I think right now, you know, looking at my spam mail folder, they're not fooling me. So they have a ways to go. Somebody's saying I need to say the like, share, subscribe, comment on videos on YouTube to get noticed on Google algorithm. I don't really like bugging people with that. I figure, like, you know, if they like it, people like the videos, they can watch more. Though that just gave me a thought. They said that to boost it up on the algorithm, it would not shock me at all if Google has the algorithm tuned to actually recognize when people are saying that it prioritizes it. So I don't know. I feel like that sort of cheapens the videos a little bit, but or it just becomes like rote. I've heard it so many times in other videos. It becomes like almost like rote. What? It's saying it's like it starts losing the meaning almost. But I mean, I don't do these in a way that maximizes my view count. I can say that. I try to I try to make I try to prioritize making a video hopefully people will want to watch. And when those run in conflict with other elements, then I tend to lean towards keeping the video better. So, it's. But besides, we'll see how the Wall Street bet people. We'll see if the Wall Street bet people throw anything my way. Maybe I don't have to worry about that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Wall Street bet people. I have a recurring option. Be sure to. Yeah. There's monthly and one time. There's monthly and one time payment. Hit the monthly one. You just forget all about it. Yeah. I'd rather bug the Wall Street bet people than bug the entire audience. Okay. Let's see. Do you have any opinions on the subject of film preservations? Some of your opposition to killing games? Are there any vault films you like which are inaccessible to the general public now? Not that I know of. I mean, film, we have the tools to do it, so it's not really a problem. I mean, unless it's something from 50 years ago, longer really, that just the public never. Basically, it would have to be something that was locked down before VCRs, basically, or Betamax, that never got preserved. I mean, I get even then they might be crappy copies on VHS, and there's no other copy available. I guess there's some of that, but it's now we have all the tools, so it would have to be like even older stuff where the tools weren't around for like the average person to grab a copy of it, and the studios kept it locked down for whatever reason. So. Okay, I'll start taking questions this time because I forgot to set up IRC again. Just do the @Ross Broadcast. Hopefully I won't get too overwhelmed by the responses, or I'll kind of pause it. Was there too many? Okay, well, there's the 3 equal signs. Update on play sessions with fans. I'm afraid it's been taking lower priority to the videos and just be chilling out, though I probably should have done some streaming of some of the games I played. Okay. I'm going to pause this once this goes up the full screen. Sorry. When it comes to playing a game series, do you play them after the other or take long breaks in between each one? I'm confused. Let's see. I noticed you said before you wanted to wait, do Dark Souls. Oh, yeah. Oh, it depends on the series. Yeah, I usually take a break if I'm going consecutively through a series. It depends how hungry I am for more. Like I'll probably take a break after Aquanox. I'm doing that. Yeah, I screwed up. Apparently Aquanox is a sequel. Apparently the original was Archimedean Dynasty, but I'm too deep in now, so I'll have to do them out of order. So yeah, if I'm hungry for more, I might go right into the sequel. But if I feel like I kind of want something different, I'll take a break from it. Are there worldly experiences that present accomplishments? Oh, whoops. Okay. That you want to complete but don't have either the time or means to do so? Or that are presently accomplishable? Oh, part of me wants to explore more forests or jungle, something like that. I mean, I guess going underwater, seeing the seabed would be kind of neat, but that might be pretty intense too. I wouldn't want to go super deep. I guess just exploring random forest or like Siberia or something. You're biased against co-op games. Is it because you don't have anyone to play with, or like maybe you don't really enjoy having to wait for someone just to play a game? Yeah, my time can be limited, so it's like you have to coordinate it with other people. And like, oh hey, say you feel like playing the game again, but the other person's busy, and it's like it's just tricky to to kind of coordinate more, you know. Yeah, a bunch of people have been saying to play Hades. I have heard of it. Okay, what? Oh, okay. Okay. What's your been experience been with VR so far? In terms of mixed reality software, hardware, and games. I haven't. I actually didn't play that much of it. See, I haven't had a VR set with controllers that I've been able to use until like end of November, basically. And then I was pretty busy December, and then by January I hadn't played just even regular games. I was just really just playing regular games. I have played a little bit of Skyrim VR, although even then I'm just sort of touring it. I found the snap turning helps with the motion sickness. Uh, I can mostly move forward and not get too sick. Smooth turning is still bad. I mean, like turning the camera. Like I can look around fine. That's not an issue. But I'm probably not going to really be playing Skyrim just so much as like I'm turning the combat AI off. And I'm just sort of taking a tour through the world. So I am finding it's kind of making me want. I'd really like to be able to try the Pimax because those have the wide field of view. I am finding myself thinking, yeah, this would be nicer if my field of view is wider. So I don't know, but man, those have a pricey entry point. So, are you a tank guy or a mech guy? They're both answers are acceptable. I'll accept either answer. Let's see. Marfitimus, Blackimus, about your postal idea. He works at running with scissors. Well, maybe. You know, they might not have the resources to throw over a bunch of animation tools and stuff, but I don't know, maybe. Animate. I mean, if I'm having to do animation, I want to do the movie, but I should get my pipeline together first. The move. Once I've done the movie, that'll leave me some software to hopefully do some more stuff. If I don't hate animation with my soul by that point. Let's see. Are you gonna make a sanitarium review? Maybe. Do you plan to make any Super Nintendo or Nintendo games? Probably not. I figure those are. I kind of feel like those are probably covered by everyone on the internet. So. The moon landing was broadcast in HD, but NASA lost the high quality recordings. Yeah, well, they lost it though. See, that's yeah. Well, I guess it wasn't. They didn't burn it, you know, while people were asking for it. Yeah, that's well. You know what? We might be able to make up the difference some with AI. With AI again, I mean, they're doing. They can clean up some things pretty impressively. So. Yeah, well, you say broadcast in HD. It was probably recorded in film, I guess, because you know you didn't really have HD back then. You have film, you know. Do you think there'd be any significant impact if an AI art program were developed that is intended to let everyone digitally draw anything, regardless of their personal ability to do so? I think we'd have a lot more great art, and artists would have an even harder time making ends meet. Yeah. Don't think I'm downplaying the economic. See, AI is a tool. You know, if we're using it poorly, we're gonna have awful results. Like, well, that's what the robot jobs video is about. But whoa, but if we're using it for cool stuff, then great, it opens more doors. Okay, trying to find my place again. Hopefully, I'll have IRC set up next time. I haven't heard of. Oh wow, Warner Brothers got a patent to Shadow Mordor's Nemesis mechanic. That's not good. Once you start, This is what I mean about, see, this is stuff like this is why I'm kind of throwing up the white flag on the legal front in the United States, because it's so hostile. We're going the opposite direction of where we need to go for game preservation. It's like everything in favor of copyright, including destroying the game, you know? Yeah, I mean, that's really bad because if every game did that, we would have, there would be like 10,000, we would have a 10,000th less games now, I think. So, by a factor of 10,000, I think, is how many less games we would have if every company did that. Because, hey, you know, who would have been first on the scene for target first-person shooters? Platformers, getting health. I mean, it's stupid. It's stupid, you know, and the fact that if they pulled that off and got a patent for that, that's bad news, you know. Oh, okay, somebody's saying that we were able to piggyback off the work of SARS for the vaccine, so it's been more like 5 years. Good. Although I think I understood is like we didn't have a vaccine to the previous ones. I don't want to say the name of it because I'm pretty sure they might have turned this off, but at one point YouTube would flag the video if I even said the name of the virus that's causing the pandemic. So I don't do that anymore. So, but other viruses in that category is the. What are your thoughts on game sequels that change the canonical events of the previous games through time travel? Uh, I guess it depends on how it's handled. I mean, it's either it's either lame or it's totally awesome. That's like I'm thinking of like Soul Reaver 2, where he goes back and kind of sets things. I also like the Prince of Persia Warrior Within. You're kind of changing things around, and it's like we're getting into really weird territory with with what exactly are you doing. So, but if it's just trying to pretend other stuff didn't exist and I don't like it, well then that's cheap, you know. No, if they are 100% embracing this, like yeah, we're really gonna mess with this, then it's all yeah. Then I'm all for it. So yeah, it's either awesome or lame. I don't think there's much in between on that. Oh boy, lost my place. Uh, okay. Besides Tom Wolfe, are there other? Okay, to show you how great I am with this, I don't remember who Tom Wolfe was. I'm not always. Is that the Polygon Hoy thing? I don't know. Are there any use? Well, oh yeah, I should mention I did a cameo for Civi 11. I think he did a Half-Life video. I haven't even checked. I've been. So he just. We had a little bit back and forth. He had an idea first, but I thought the line was a little weak for what he had for me. So I tried to get something a little more random in there, and then that worked. So I gave him like a list of lines he might want, and then he picked one or two. So I voiced those, and I haven't even seen how he's used them yet. So I think if this was the Polybius one, I might be thinking of. Then I think he just kind of gave me an email what he was looking for, and then I replied back saying, "Well, would this work?" And he said, "Yeah, that's good." So I gave it to him. Yeah, it's this is and that's not meant as like an insult to him. I just my brain's limited with what I absorb. You know. If you could get regular days off for one long vacation a year or we're in the middle, which would you prefer? Oh, I think regular days off. Because again, after those 2 days, like on the third day, I kind of felt like doing something productive, you know? Or just less hours. That might be nice too. Is your IRC a thing where people can join, or does it function solely as a bridge for the video chats? It's not even a private thing. It's just like a function of Twitch where you can connect to it and it'll replicate the chat there. And the thing is, then I don't have to like lose my place when scrolling through like this. I'm not talking to anybody on it, so. What are some niche genres you want to see more games in? Like, I don't know how niche it is, but I'd like to see more games of it. The sort of kind of conquest, like what would you call, like, what was Red Faction Guerrilla? Like, you know, where you go and you take down that base and then you kind of move on to the next one. And like, I like that style a lot. So something, not exactly niche, but I'd like to see more of it. I'm calling it sort of a conquest kind of game, you know, where you're fighting like a series of battles and it's forming your larger war campaign, that sort of thing. It's great. What about a game that is only possible to run only on a server? Would you agree that cloud gaming has some potential there? A bit like how console games are made for consoles, games are made to... This is kind of a loaded question because there are far less of those than you might think. You know, yes, it does need to run on a server. Well, okay, well, what? Guess how multiplayer gaming started? Guess how online multiplayer gaming started? You know, somebody would host the server. Somebody would connect to it. Now, yeah, a lot of it's kind of, I might cover this in like the games as a service follow-up, but a lot of it's kind of more artificial than you might think. Like an arena shooter, give me a break. All you need is somebody with access to the server software. You're gonna have a functioning server. Like what? They can't handle what, 10 people connecting to it? I don't think so. No, but okay. So I just want to emphasize that. So this is. And then above that, there is the stuff like an MMO where your average system can't handle the kind of loads we're talking about. Like, again, I'm thinking of like EVE Online. You know, that's like 1,000, I forget like how many thousands of people can be on that concurrently. That case, well, what you do if the game was shutting down, but like, I'm not against any of these games. What I'm against is them being destroyed. That's the part I'm against. So yeah, make any sort of game you want. Just have a plan. Whoa, there goes the filtering. I mean, the focusing again. Have a plan when it doesn't work. I mean, when you can't support it any longer. Then what you do is like release a server client so people can run that at like a scaled down version or source code. I mean, this stuff's covered in the games as a service video. But okay, let's go to the extreme example. Like, I think the only game I can think of like this. So yeah, you're not gonna run thousands of people on there, but you can maybe run hundreds, or maybe somebody really wants to. Maybe somebody loves this game and they put down the money for hosting that on their own server array somewhere else, and then you can run thousands again. I mean, I'm fine with any path that leads to not destroying the game. But for ones that really require it, and let's say not just number of people, I'm thinking of like Microsoft Flight Simulator, where like if you wanted to fly anywhere like full definition, you need to download, it's basically like petabytes of data. Like no average system can handle that. What I would say then is have an end of life plan. What you do is, well, I think you can run the game without that, although they have like an online requirement check, but I think that got cracked. I'm not sure. But fine, like in the last 30 days or 90 days, you just open up access to download that data. So it's up to the fans for them just have like a free-for-all to try to grab that data, and they can decide themselves how they want to handle trying to preserve that volume of data. So they were given a fair chance, you know, an honest shot at it, where, you know, maybe there was some giant archive project emerges from that. Or if it doesn't, well, you know what? We had our shot to try to save the game. So, you know. Okay, so I should keep going. Do you watch Seth? Oh, I think I saw one of his videos. Yeah, the Seth's and I don't know how to say the YouTuber name, and I lost it. Yeah. Somebody linked me to one where he showed a clip of me when he was talking about mold. Yeah, I haven't watched many of his though. I think I just saw one or two. It had a different vibe, but I'm a fan of Civi 11 stuff that I've seen. He hits the vibe I'm kind of looking for. So. But yeah, I mean he's doing the Seth guy's doing all right. I think he probably. I think like everyone I'm talking about has more views than I do, so it's all right. Yeah, by different vibe, I'm sort of Seth was giving. Okay, maybe I'm just imagining this. His was giving me this vibe like I feel like I could be watching it, and it doesn't seem like it beyond the. Okay, maybe now I'm trying to think of how to word this. It doesn't seem like it's out of the realm of possibilities that he just throws up a snuff film footage or something. Like it feels like this. It could go into like more intense areas than I really want to like spend a lot of time in or something. I don't know. Maybe I'm just imagining this. Oh, any games you remember wanting to put Freeman in for your Freeman across the universe that didn't make the cut? Maybe. I was just kind of grabbing his. That was their April Fool's video, so I was kind of a little more pressed for time on that. Do you have any intention to cover any sexy games like Leisure Suit Larry once? I mean, I don't know. I had to censor the Phantasmagoria 2 one. I'm not like dying to cover sexy games, really, especially if it means I have to demonetize the video. I mean, I say I had to. I think if I left it up without that, then fine, I get a copyright strike on my channel. Yeah, a lot of people are giving me crap like, oh, you're saying you have to censor it, but you censored it yourself, huh? Well, if I left it up, it's going to get flagged by the channel. I think it would range anywhere from getting a strike from YouTube to, hey, why not just shut down my channel since I'm doing that? I mean, I don't know how YouTube's going to handle that. So yeah, I figured it was wiser to just say yes, it has adult content in the video. So, which means it gets demonetized. So I'm not. I mean, I can't. I mean, Phantasmagoria 2 is the one I really wanted to do because, and I didn't want to cover that just because it has adult content. It's because the whole experience is just like amazing as a game. What's your take on what's happening in Poland lately with anti-marginalized groups? I haven't followed a lot of it. I mean, it's, this is the sort of thing where this is what happens when society's more unstable, really. It kind of scapegoats into different topics that, that's kind of what, that's kind of what happened with the Nazis, really. The Weimar Republic, where things were devastated economically with hyperinflation. Then you had a demagogue like Hitler come in and say, no, this was the Jews' problem or the gays. And then that got momentum because people were looking for some sort of answer. I mean, obviously a lot of people realized that's insane, but not everybody did. And the more pressure there was on trying to get stability, the more, again, a demagogue rises to power. So it's, I think you're kind of seeing those dynamics. Hopefully that does not go as far as the Hitler and the Weimar Republic, but I think those are kind of the dynamics at work. This is why making sure things are relatively stable with people's lives is super important. I mean, yes, there are other motivations for it, but the volume gets turned up once the less stable society is, I mean, obviously, I think it's a crazy direction to go in, but it's it's predictable. Like that you we've seen this play out a lot in history, I guess, that these groups emerge and get more powerful the more unstable things are. Yeah, so okay, now I'm probably way behind the chat. Uh-oh. Okay, man, 3.5 hours. Okay, I'm just picking like three more questions. Sorry, I still talk too much. That's the problem. Okay. What gamer genre did you discover thanks to piracy? Well, I did play Super Nintendo games that way back in, I guess, like late '90s on an emulator. I played Super Metroid that way on a computer. Like I didn't even. I think I was like too young to even have a job then, or maybe not. It was right around there. Well, I didn't discover it. I discovered it by playing it in. Sometimes my parents would go to department stores and they'd have like Super Metroid on a Super Nintendo like on display. So yeah, I remember like really like wanting to go to like Brendel's. That was a department store that had that because like oh they had Super Metroid there or they had Donkey Kong Country there, you know. And I did not have the money for Super Nintendo at the time, but I did have access to a computer. So yeah, I guess I'll fess up on that. But, okay, so like two more questions and Civ 11. Oh, okay. Haven't watched one of these. Oh, there's somebody just saying hey. And I was reading the next question. Wait, it sounds like you're talking about their gamepad. Do you think piracy is a good benchmark discovery tool for games? Oh, well, yeah, it depends on your region. I mean, if the game's not even sold in your region, yeah, they're gonna. It's more people playing the game. Oh, yeah, that was the other thing about GameStop is they would push used games hard. Now, I mean, used games. I think that's a perfectly valid. I think that's one of those things where I can totally see both sides, like being for it or against it, as long as you own the game. But I talk about that in the Dead Game News Valve versus France or France versus Valve video. But the thing is, GameStop pushed that like on steroids. So you know, there's organically for games that you can kind of pass on and resell. You can you know, there's people who are going to want to buy it or get it cheaper, and people who are like, I don't want the game anymore, I'll sell it, get some money back. But GameStop, they would try to push that as the first option. So they're there trying to and again, none of that money goes to the developer or the publisher, which again, that's inherent risk of just a used game. But GameStop's their whole industry was based on trying to intercept that money. So that wasn't really helping the game industry so much with them just putting that into overdrive. Oh, so you're talking about a alternate city for Half-Life 2? Yeah, that's an idea I've had for Civil Protection. I'll say that, though it was going to be a major episode. So, and I'm kind of stealing some ideas from that for the movie. So, it might even be too much of a repeat for what I have planned. What's your running routine? Well, it hasn't been as much lately because I've just been kind of doing hikes. Again, the places I could run, I'll be exposed to the most people. So I figure I don't want to be kind of like coming in as much breathing contact. So I'm just taking all these isolated trails in the woods right now. But before that, I would just kind of pick out a route that just did a giant loop when I could. So I would kind of go, it would be in the neighborhood of like 3 miles, something like that. So sometimes more or less, depending on. Okay, and I got distracted. Okay. Any YouTubers you wish had a bigger audience? I I haven't even looked on it lately. Sorry. I was playing games and I watched the movie. Oh yeah, people talk about I have one movie recommendation. A lot of them were duds. VHS. Uh, yeah, some people were in the comments were mentioning how I had UHF in the I had the clip in the Dream Software video. If you like UHF, this is almost it's like this is almost all like spoof video shorts. Like the plot is this kid is taped over. It's takes place in the 80s. VHS is the name of it. It takes place in the 80s. I think it was shot on VHS actually, where the kid is taped over his parents' wedding tape by accident, and it's all this weird stuff that he was watching and flipping the channel on. It's pretty funny. It gets really weird towards the end, but like 3/4 of it's just I thought it was hilarious. So, okay, that's a good place to end this. This went on way too long again. Sorry. I'll be working on videos, so don't know when they'll be coming, but because I want the people also working on them to take their time. But you know what? If I've done my part and then they're working on their part, I can work on something else. So I think it'll even out in the end. So we'll see. Yeah, that's it. Okay.